including broadcast, cable, satellite, and wireline participants in your area. We now return you to regular programming.
I'm losing control, can't seem to find my way home. I sit and watch my only map turn itself into stone. I'm hoping I can find the silver lining transmission, but you're not replying. We're losing signal over the horizon. We're screaming over radio silence. I think you'll break it up. You're breaking up. I wonder if you'll ever understand. I sacrifice you to avoid the end. Don't think that you'll ever know just how low I would go to save myself from all the madness in your undertones. I'm hoping I can find the silver lining transmission, but you're not replying. We're losing signal over the horizon. We're screaming over radio silence. I think you'll break it up. I think you'll break it up. I think you'll break it up. Break it up. I think you're breaking up. You're breaking up. Sick of running the risk, so sick of fighting for this. The more that show me how to forget the words that you love to spit. I'm sick of fighting for grip. I know I'm gonna give in because it makes me so sick. So the more that I fight, the noise in my life, the more I fight, the worse the starting the fire. I wanna survive, I wanna ignite, but I'm still resting on the edge of my night, begging for a sign of gravity, hoping for a change beneath my feet. Come show me, just show me. I'm the one thing that you love. How do you just dive so big and deep into who you are? The only place that I can turn without judgment when I've been burned. Afraid that I'm not, afraid that I'm not strong enough to pretend to be so tough. But I promise myself I'd never give up. Here I am for you to see. Take it or leave it, leave it, leave it. This is me. Right here, right now, it's all I've got to save me from this. Here I am, here I am. Sometimes I think if it weren't for my band, then I'd have no voice at all. Oh, I guess that I'm not much with words, but I'm so full of emotion. Some say too much passion and they fade to rain pain, but I won't fake it, I won't take it.
We have made the decision that me and the all-time leading rusher of professional football, Emmitt Smith, will be partnering up on a joint venture to create an opportunity-generating system in the form of a race team in NASCAR for 2022. Right now, currently at the national levels of NASCAR, there are only 2 African Americans racing in the top 3 series. But the only way to continue to bring more diversity to NASCAR, whether it is diversity by race, religion, gender, or whatever it will be, action must be taken. As a driver, you can only do so much, but with ownership, the sky is the limit. Growing up watching racing, I didn't see many people who looked like me in the sport. But now that I've had the opportunity to be educated at the United States Naval Academy, serve in the military for this amazing country, deploy around the world, and now while still serving, have the opportunity to chase my dreams racing in NASCAR, we are both going to use our large platforms to bring more opportunity to the sport for those who may have not thought that they had a chance. We are here for all those who thought they couldn't, and we are here to bring hope to those who believe they can. Creating that path is something that we've been thinking about for the last few years. We're trying to figure out how do we actually make this happen. And the idea we came up with was, why don't we start our own race team? And the goal of this race team isn't for me to just go drive and go find a way to win races and eventually win a championship or something like that and just focus on me. That's not what it's about. It's about going out there and giving hope to others who are coming, right? And actually creating a path, creating an opportunity system that continues year after year to create opportunities for people who maybe have not ever had that chance and never thought that they were ever going to have that chance.
Mm-hmm. Your background, I know where your heart is at. I know where your passion and where your drive and your determination comes from. And it's that I absolutely love and appreciate, because I feel similar to you, even though we come from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different eras, or my era is a little bit farther than yours, but we come from similar places. And that part makes me proud to be a partner with you.
So, getting this team going together, I'm pretty pumped about it. It's an opportunity to create, like we've been talking about, this system that continues to create opportunities for people, whether minorities, veterans, you name it, whatever it is. But we can make it happen, because, when you have someone like you who's been there, done that, we follow your lead.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, I do have some things, but here's the beautiful thing about this relationship that I'm appreciate is the youth, which is beautiful. But most importantly, I'm proud of you because you're doing something. You're fighting the good fight. You're fighting the good fight and the right fight. And you're competing in an area that not many of us have had the opportunity to compete in, which also says you are a trailblazer. When I look at myself and I look at what I've been able to accomplish, in a lot of ways, I was a trailblazer too. Didn't realize it in the process of doing it. And sometimes we don't realize it because we're in the middle of doing it. You're on your way. And with the right type of sponsorships around you and the right support around you, you can. There's no question whether or not you have the work ethic. I know you do. You could not make it to the highest level in the military without having that kind of work ethic. That's one thing that they require. So I know that part is ingrained in you. There's no doubt. I don't have to question that piece at all. The opportunity, that's what I want to see for you. And that's why I'm proud of you, because you're stepping out there on faith. You're stepping out there in something that you believe in, something that you're passionate about. And I know you won't quit. And, that is a wonderful thing to see, is to see someone driven to the point that they won't quit. There's no quit in you. There's only fight. And you know how to take that heel. And you know how not to leave a man behind. That, my friend, is the recipe for being successful. And that's what you have. And I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Live tonight from iRacing's virtual Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the eRacing Association 2021 Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl. We're happy to have you strapped into the virtual seat and along for the ride with us for the ERA pre-race show presented by Equity Prime Mortgage on Podium. Getting excited to give away $5,000 in cash coming up in just a little bit as we welcome you into the broadcast booth alongside Devin Henry and Jesse Iwuji. My name is Evan Pasoko. Well, Jesse, I'll go to you first on this one. We have seen the ERA give over tens of thousands of dollars over the course of these competitions, and it was kind of right back here where we started this last winter with the inaugural Winter Bowl. To see this series now come full circle, we're ready for the second trip around the sun, if you will, and get a first time out in Fontana, a different challenge that we haven't seen yet.
Definitely a different challenge, that's for sure. We decided to go with Auto Club Speedway for the final race of 2021 because it's a big track, a lot of great racing, variable banking on this track. So you're going to see people go low, go mid, go high, run against the wall, all of that. There's going to be tons of different strategies going on because it's just a big track where you can really get racy around it. So we wanted to make it fun for this final race. Nobody knew what track we were going to go with until really about maybe 30 days prior to the event. So nobody really had a ton of time to practice from from our spring bowl, from our summer bowl till now. No one had a chance, so they just had to basically figure it out in the last couple days, and we'll see how these drivers do for this race.
It is going to be a very high-stakes race as well, Devin. These drivers racing for $5,000, $4,000 of which will go to the eventual race winner. And every time we have one of these special events with the iRacing Association, we see the best of the best come to play. But I mentioned Fontana for a reason. This 2-mile D-shaped oval is kind of the only track we haven't really seen yet. We've gone to an intermediate in Nashville. We've been to a big track in Daytona, been to a road course in Coda, been to a short track at Bristol. We have not seen anything like this virtual Auto Club Speedway yet.
Yeah, and in my mind, it's really a mixture of the drafting and speed to go with. Actually, it's still a very technical track, even with these Gen 7 cars that love to draft and really not get off the throttle. But this 2-mile track, having the only 14 degrees of banking, it forces you, even when you are in a pack in these cars that are made to almost never come off the gas at a track this big, in order to set the car up, you still need to burp the throttle at the very least to set yourself up. Front straightaway still has 11 degrees of banking, back straightaway still not flat. So in essence, you're still kind of always turning that wheel to the left a little bit, and I'm excited once we go inevitably 3 and 4 wide in these cars. What are these guys going to do and have to adapt to as this race goes on?
It really is going to be an exciting one. And Jesse, you've driven just about any kind of stock car there is, having competed in the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, K&N at ARCA. This next gen car, not the first time we're using it in an ERA event, used it just a couple of months back at Bristol for the Fall Bowl when Vicente Salas won his second ERA major on the calendar year. But we haven't seen them at a track like this. Devin mentioned the drafting there, and there's still questions as to what this next gen car is going to look like long term. So I think even some of those more veteran drivers, right, the drivers who have experience at the top NASCAR ranks, may not necessarily have this car completely dialed in, and I think that gives the entire field a really good shot at making this one a competitive race.
I think the playing field is pretty level right now. I mean, if you look at it with this track, that 2-mile track, we haven't run a 2-mile track like this before. Drafting is going to be something that these drivers are going to have to get used to on this track. If you fall out of the draft, you're going to fall out of the pack. You fall out of the pack, all of a sudden you're having to think of different strategies just to make that time back up. But these cars, I mean, they just, a lot of people don't have experience in them yet. I mean, this is now something new that everyone's jumping into. Now that the Cup Series in real life is going away from the Gen 6, now people are like, okay, gone with the old, it's time to go in with the new. They're throwing in these Gen 7 cars. Everyone's starting to get a little bit of practice now, but a lot of these people who are racing tonight, these last few days have actually probably been their only laps in these cars at this track. So it's going to be very interesting to see how people race this race, and also with the setup of the car. Everyone has the same setup. Nobody has an advantage saying that, hey, I have this really, really good crew chief who's going to create a great setup for me that's going to allow me to power past everybody else. Everyone is on the same level playing field, same setup. So we're going to see how strategies play out so that people can make their way up to the front and hopefully get that win. $4,000 to win the race.
I think that's my biggest takeaway as well, Devin, right, is those pro drivers, those pro-level drivers don't have a huge upper hand on the rest of the field, right? And this is a 2-day event, right? I mean, it all started on Monday when drivers had to race their way to get to this point, and now, of course, in qualifying, we're going to whittle 50 cars down to 40, so it's ultra competitive. Anytime you have a big money race, you're going to get the big names out there, but I think that's the beauty of sim racing as a whole, is that you can have anybody on the service get into a race like this, and if you got the speed on a fixed setup, you can compete against some of the very best.
Exactly, and we talked about in the Real Life Cup Series, leveling the playing field at super speedways and whatnot, and even then, super speedways do not truly level the playing field. There is still the expertise that you have to have in terms of drafting, the technicality of a track, and the same thing happens in iRacing, except now you legitimately do not have any sort of step over someone else with the fixed setup. All you can change is your braking bias, you can change your steering ratio, you can change the steering offset. That's all you got. Everything else, everyone is running the exact same air pressures, wedge, everything. So now it comes down to your talent at this specific track, and even the strategy of, okay, do I need to pit here? What kind of tires do I need to take? Do I need to spend all the time on pit road fueling my fuel tank full? Those are tenths of a second, maybe a full second on pit road. It comes down to the nitty-gritty talent and strategy and thinking up here that typically someone like me fails at in order to go out and win these difficult races for big money.
As I was joking that I'm going to try to enter one of these, but I'll still book for the booth because it's not going to happen. I mean, these drivers are ultra competitive. They want to get into it, Jesse. And I mentioned that, this is kind of full circle, right? This all started with the Winter Bowl last year. We've now gone through 4 major of these ERA events. But it's not just these one-offs, right, that happen, 4 times a year. ERA hosts races a ton of times with the drivers in the league and whatnot. So just want to ask you as well how you've seen the ERA grow over the last year and what this kind of meant for you.
It's been incredible seeing ERA grow throughout the last 12 months now. This was just an idea maybe a year and a half ago. The reason why we even started the E-Racing Association was because last year when COVID hit, which is still with us today, we have different variants now. I mean, places are starting to close up again. We're having to wear masks again. All these different things are happening. The reason why we started ERA was because we wanted a COVID-proof event that we could put on. Live events in real life are great, and we want to make sure that we eventually get to the point where we are putting on in-person events. But right now, with everything going on in the world, you just never know when the next pandemic is going to hit, when everyone's going to be stuck at home. We wanted to figure out something that was COVID-proof where people could still have fun at home, compete for real cash prizes. These aren't IOUs. These aren't credits. This isn't gift cards. It's not shirts and hats. People are literally competing for $5,000, which is on the line tonight. That's what's happening, and they're doing it from their home. I mean, I joke with people all the time, somebody's going to win tonight and they're going to walk home with $4,000. And I'm like, well, they're actually already home. They're not walking home. They're already in their room. They're going to go to bed knowing that they won $4,000 in this race. So a lot of money on the line, a lot of pride on the line. Some people are just racing this race just to get the exposure. I mean, we're getting broadcasted on all these different channels. So many things going on, but a lot of people are going to be having fun tonight. We're going to see some great racing, and I'm just super excited that we've been able to do this for the last 12 months, and we're going to definitely continue to grow this.
Well, let's talk with one of the drivers who's going to be racing in this one. Brian LaPrade, I think Devin is a favorite when he enters any of the events on the service, and you're dialed up with him on the radio.
Yeah, Brian, you've had yourself a busy time this offseason, quote-unquote, from the Coke Series. But when you come to a race like this, you got the big money. You're coming off a great contender season so far. When you look at a race like this with a car that not everyone necessarily has a lot of time with, what are the keys for you when you come to a race like this and go, oh, I want to bring home that $4,000?
It's honestly just going to be a game of learning and see who can adapt the quickest, I think. It's going to be tough to see who comes out on top here. I think it's going to be a big game of chess that we're going to be playing here for 100 laps and see what happens, honestly. I think everyone's going to be on the same page here. No one really has a ton of experience in this car, but just got to be able to survive for this whole race and put yourself in position at the end of this thing.
In 200 miles, what do you think the biggest thing will be to overcome in a race where a lot of guys don't have experience in these cars? What is everyone, including yourself, going to need to overcome to just have, first of all, a clean race?
I don't know. I feel like most of this racing is going to be like pack racing, sort of like Talladega Daytona. So, I would just say survival. We do have a faster pair, I believe, so that kind of helps. So you can kind of push the limit sometimes and see what you can figure out for the end of the race. But I don't know. It's going to be 50-50. See on how the end of this race ends out, because whoever's got the clean car and puts himself in position at the right time should come out on top, I believe.
And in my mind, typically, this is a track that's such a great variation of both drafting and speed, and then also being technical and having difficulties going into the corner, setting the car up, picking the line that you want. And like you said, this car involves pack racing, involves trying to never lift your foot off the throttle. Just how technical is this race going to be from the cockpit, mostly in terms of corner entry, maybe even the center of the corner?
Yeah, the line's going to be kind of different. Usually, we've seen in the Contender Series race a little while back, a couple weeks ago, I think most of the lines were working. With this race, I'm not sure, to be honest. It's going to be one of those things that I'm going to have to learn throughout this race and figure out what line works. I got a feeling maybe if we can get a couple cars lined up on the top, maybe it might roll pretty good, but I'm not so sure. I think it might be bottom heavy for a little bit, and maybe if the tires wear off, the top might come in, but it's going to be different for sure, just trying to figure it out throughout this race.
Any ideas yet on what you might do with $4,000 if you can reach that checkered flag first?
Well, right now, for sure, I got my new setup going. Obviously, a little change in scenery, but first thing I would like is a formula room so I could do some open wheel stuff during the off season and just kind of get used to this whole new rig I got going. But I don't know. Honestly, just a formula room for sure. So I could do some stream content over at twitch.tv/Patriot Breyer. Be doing a lot of that this off season, getting ready for Coke. And yeah, I don't know. I'd probably just put it away for a little bit and see what else comes up in the future.
Well, Breyer, we appreciate your time. Best of luck tonight here at Auto Club Speedway. Looking for that $4,000.
Hey.
That's a chat with Breyer LaPrade, who's going to have a real good look at winning this race. Breyer mentions the Coke Series will be using these next-gen cars when we get to that 2022 campaign. And speaking of some driver interviews, let's chat with Bryce Kobler, who is our underdog this afternoon. Jesse, and you're going to be dialed up, and see if we can get a word with Bryce.
Hey.
Mr. Bryce, so how are you feeling for tonight's race? I mean, you have $5,000 on the line, and if you win the race, you'll go home with $4,000. How are you feeling about that?
I mean, man, that is a lot of money. that's a lot of money on the line. I thought I about didn't make it through qualifying on the start.
Definitely a lot of money for sure on the line, and there's a lot that you can do with it. So let's say you do come home with the checker and you do go home with $4,000. Actually, you're at home right now. What would you spend it on? What would somebody like you, an iRacer, someone who's been sim racing, what would you spend that on? Would you go get a race car, get into real racing, or are you like, you know what, I'm going to upgrade my sim rig. I'm going to continue to try to progress my sim racing career and go try to win $4,000 again and again and again?
Oh, I mean, honestly, if I won it, probably to put it towards some better internet down our way, because I'm actually not at my house. I'm actually at my father's work using their Wi-Fi. I moved my whole setup here just for the race. So I'd probably put it towards that. If not that, just probably put it towards my car or just some other random stuff, or just save it since I'm a college kid and I'm broke all the time.
That's awesome. So you're in college. Obviously, I see that you're at Emory and Henry, so that's pretty awesome to see. But pretty cool that you had to move your entire rig over somewhere else so that you can have some better internet just so you can compete. And that's the thing with sim racing right there. There's so many different pieces to the puzzle. It's not just like a PlayStation or Xbox where you just plug it in, you just get ready, you just go. I mean, you have so many different things that you have to account for on sim racing. A lot of people don't know. I mean, what makes sim racing so difficult but also so fun to you?
I mean, it makes it so, for me, what makes it so fun is, I mean, I grew up watching NASCAR, probably at the age of 4, so I knew that it was always fun, and I kind of wished I went down that path of, racing in person, but I also knew that I kind of wanted to do other stuff. I mean, and this gives you a chance for maybe, like, with my setup, maybe about 1,000, half a thousand, or 1,500, to actually be as close as you can to the car, and you can run really whatever car you want. I mean, you can be like right there, and sometimes you'll go against these NASCAR drivers, some other people that you really like, or you'll find some people that you just like to race with. I mean, it really kind of puts you in the seat without actually being there. And the feedback on some of these cars is amazing too. So I mean, you feel like you're actually in it is what makes it pretty fun to race on this game with.
And I can definitely attest the feel of the sim at home. It is very close to real life. I mean, really the only thing you're not experiencing in that sim is the G-forces and also probably the fear of potentially getting hurt if you got in a bad wreck. But with the safety that we have in the vehicles nowadays on track, a lot of people, when they get in wrecks, they're not really coming out of it hurt or anything like that. But it's great that you're getting this experience on the sim. And what does it mean to you to be racing in front of thousands and thousands of viewers who will be watching this event tonight?
I mean, it definitely makes me nervous because, I've never raced in front of this many people. I did a league a couple months ago that wasn't really as big, but this is on iRacing. This is going to be in front of a ton of people to see, and I just got to hope that I don't make a fool of myself. So I just got to make sure that I don't mess up in the race. I know it's going to be a long race. It's just going to be a lot of drafting, a lot of give and take, which some drivers don't know to give. They just want to take it all, so it's going to take a lot of that to make it through, not get in a wreck, just kind of get through it and get to the end. You want to be there to the end. You don't win it in the first lap.
That's exactly right. Strategy is key. And I always tell people, in order to finish first, you must first finish, and that is the name of the game. There's going to be a lot of strategy for today, especially racing at a place like Auto Club Speedway. There's a lot of drafting. There's a lot of folks on track who will be going 3 wide, 4 wide, because there is the space to do that. I guess, what is your strategy for today, and what are you looking at doing that you think will keep you up front and get you to the end of this race so that you can potentially win some big money?
So I've actually gotten about probably only two other people that I have raced with, and We didn't qualify very good, really, at all. We did I did pretty bad. They didn't do so bad because I got way too tight. But when we get around each other, we're not going to try to pass because we know that you get two cars together, it is just an anchor. It'll just pull you back. And we're thinking if we can get just all three of us lined up, or even two, if we just hang one car out, we will just eventually just go right by them. So we're just really going to try to stay together as long as we can and just keep on pushing each other as far as we can, because we know that the draft here is so huge, and especially with this, I believe it's the low horsepower, high downforce package drafting, it will absolutely just shove you to the front if you just stay with that person. You just have to stay with them, and it will just take you there. But because one car they just won't beat you with two cars on this track.
And that is a great strategy, but with $5,000 on the line, do you think anyone's going to get a little bit antsy, especially once it starts getting to the last few laps of this race?
I mean, I do expect some people, especially at the start, they are going to be pretty aggressive because with it being a low horsepower, high downforce, it is very hard to pass, especially if you have nobody to work with you. So you kind of have to take the spot. But I know that, okay, I might just give it to them. We have forever in the race and maybe help them. So maybe down the road they will help me. I'm just kind of going to play I'm just going to kind of leave you there, do what you want to do. If you want to be aggressive, take it, go with it. I mean, that about got me killed yesterday, which I about didn't make it into this. I was very nervous on that, but I'm just going to kind of just play it very cool, not try to force anything, just stay there and just be at the end of it. Hopefully I don't get enough damage to where I have to use my fast repair. I just want to be as clean as I can the whole race.
Strategy will be key. Thank you so much, Bryson. Good luck with tonight's race. Have fun out there. Be smart. But like I mentioned before, in order to finish first, you must first finish. So just be smart out there. Have a good race. And looking forward to seeing what you do by the end of this race. Back to you, Evan.
Well, big thanks to Bryce and some of the other drivers, Briar, for stopping by and chatting with us as we continue with the ERA pre-race show brought to you by Equity Prime Mortgage. We mentioned that there was as many as 50 drivers attempting to qualify for the race. The total number ended up being 48. So 8 drivers going to be sent home and then awaiting us to go to a qualifying session to set the grid for the 40 drivers who will advance into tonight's 100 lap and 200-mile feature race from Fontana. Talking about these cars and how it's a new combination, Jesse, I'll go back to you on this one. That's one thing, right, that we haven't raced in these cars at Fontana. But the point that I mentioned earlier was that, these cars, a lot of guys don't have a ton of time in them, right? And you've driven, as I mentioned, so many different kinds of stock cars over the years. What are your thoughts on what you've seen out of this next-gen car, right? It's got a new chassis design, new independent rear suspension setup. We switched to a sequential transmission, single lug wheels. It's a 358 cubic inch V8 still. But if you had a chance to drive it all on the sim, what are your thoughts on it?
Evan, so I've driven it a little bit on the sim, but I haven't driven it on a track this big yet. I've done some of the short track stuff, definitely ran it on a road course. It's different tracks, but nothing like Auto Club Speedway. I know it will definitely race pretty different on this track just because of the drafting and people, for the most part, holding it wide open and probably blurping the throttle just a little bit, going into a corner, depending on how tight the car is getting. One thing that these drivers are going to have to be aware of is, going into a corner, they're going to carry a pretty decent amount of speed, and when you're drafting, sometimes the cars can start getting tight, but when they start getting tight, you're going to really be eating up that right front tire. So it'll be very interesting to see how drivers manage that, because we will start getting to a point where drivers start shoving in the center of the corner, and all of a sudden it's not going to be as fun to drive anymore as it probably was on some fresher tires. So I think tire management is definitely going to be key. The new chassis on the car, the motor, the sequential transmission, the rear end, the IRS now, all these different changes on these cars are really making these things very interesting and also fun to drive. I think we're finally modernizing these cars a little bit more, even though I do like the old school style that we had before. I love the H pattern, 4-speed dog box, just, banging through the gears. I love the solid rear axle in the back and just, it being really, really old school. I love that the chassis was based off of the 1950s Chevy. All these different things made the old Gen 6 pretty awesome to drive because it was just a raw machine. Now we're getting into a car that's a little bit more technologically advanced, a little bit more, I would say, fancy, whatever you want to call it, bougie maybe. But this car is definitely an upgrade from the last one for sure. It's going to be fast. It's going to be fun to watch. A great look on these cars between the Chevys, the Fords, Toyotas. They all look beautiful. It'll be interesting to see how this race goes. But when we get to real life racing here in a couple months at Daytona International Speedway, it'll be fun to watch these things all in the pack on track. And then I think second race of the season, we're going to Auto Club Speedway. So it'll be cool to see how what happens tonight translates to what happens in real life here in a couple months.
Yeah, and as NASCAR continues to develop that car, iRacing is going to do the same thing, right? I mean, it's always a working process. We even saw that, when the Gen 6 was first introduced, Devin, right? NASCAR plays with a couple of things and kind of figures out how to best optimize these cars. I think the funnest part about driving these for these last couple of ERA races is the fact that they're the future cars, right? So we haven't seen them in actual competition yet. Something tells me when they become the standard for Cup Series racing, we'll probably see some of these ERA races of some of the older stock cars, right? I mean, that's the beautiful thing about iRacing. You retire a car in real life, doesn't go sit in Dale Jr.'s backyard in the graveyard, right? It can come back on the sim and you can compete in anything.
Or, of course, you can take something from 1987 and bring it to life as well. We've seen that once, make it twice with the racetrack on iRacing. Yeah, that's exactly the beauty. And another part of it is iRacing and NASCAR working together to make sure, as NASCAR is testing this week in Charlotte, right? They make these decisions. What's the horsepower going to be? What's the downforce going to be? How are these cars going to feel? All the drivers who are a part of NASCAR who come into iRacing help them out as well. As this car evolves, because we do not have the specific, this is what is going to be on a racetrack. As that evolves, iRacing can then also take in all that information, all the data, and go, this is how it's supposed to feel. They did that with the off-road trucks too. They brought actual off-road drivers in and said, does this car feel correct? And until those drivers said yes, then that's when it got released. And now you're looking at probably drivers coming back and saying, this is what the car should feel like. This is what the car should do. iRacing goes and changes that and goes, this is the most realistic simulator to get the feel of this car with this air temperature and this track temperature, this air pressure. If you drive like this around other cars that are running like this is how it feels like, as close as you can get in real life. And that is the beauty of iRacing.
Yeah, I still think it's fun that I got to drive the next-gen car before 4/5 of the Cup Series field did in real life, right? Because it got released on the service first. Well, as we wait to go trackside and get tonight's show underway, let's step aside and show you a special video.
It means a lot to have this opportunity to race full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
We're reaching a community that needs to be transformed in terms of unlocking their mental potential with this opportunity with EPM.
The American gift is right here. It's embodied in this opportunity. It's embodied in all of us. It's not a dream, it's an opportunity. This is America, and everything is possible.
I'm just super happy and proud to be part of this whole team and this organization and everything we're going to do from here on out.
When you put that combination of talent, hard work, and opportunity together, it lends itself to be something great. And I look forward to seeing what it matures to.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody out there. Very grateful that we get to do this, we get to have fun, and more importantly, that we're all going to make a difference together. Thank you so much.
Well, that's a first look, Jesse, at your EPM Xfinity Series car. They have been such a supporter of everything here with the eRacing Association through all these Omega Cup Series events, and now they'll be joining you in the real world, outside of the virtual world. Tell us about that and what they've meant for you.
It's pretty exciting to see that EPM has been super supportive of what we've been able to do in not only esports, but also in real life motorsports as well. EPM, Equity Prime Mortgage, Eddie over there is heading that whole thing up, and they just have a great company with a lot of great values. I mean, they're all about empowering people more. Even though EPM stands for Equity Prime Mortgage, it also stands for empowering people more, giving people the opportunity to achieve their dreams by getting home loans, by getting into the dream house of their life. You name it. EPM's been making a lot of people's dreams come true. Eddie Perez over there, he has an amazing story about how his father came to America, how they started off with basically nothing, and then he built his life from there, and now he has an amazing company, and they're doing a lot of great things here in this country. So he's all about the American dream and empower people more, and that's what the team is about. Our team is about creating an opportunity generating system for those who may have never thought they would have an opportunity to to work in motorsports, be part of motorsports, drive in motorsports, whatever it is, we will finally have a platform where we can create that for folks and give them the opportunity to succeed. So I'm looking forward to everything we're doing with this team, and it's so awesome that EPM has hopped on board to be one of our sponsors.
And I know personally one of the first things that comes out is the team logo. You got it on your shirt, and I think that right there was like, all right, we know it's going to be good because that logo is killer, man. I absolutely love the logo. The car looks great as well. But I want to look back at the Omega Cup and ERA, everything going on here is to be in this race here tonight to win potentially $4,000. All you have to do is be a member of ERA. And now there was an extra perk last year. All the names were on one of the truck beds of your NASCAR Truck Series machine. Now that you're in the Xfinity Series, are some of those members going to see another perk like that maybe next year?
Yeah, for sure. So our ERA members, what we typically do is if we ever have any races where we have ERA as a primary on the race vehicle, whether it's Truck Series or even Xfinity Series, because we've done it there too, what we typically like to do is give this extra perk to all the ERA members and get all the member names actually on the race vehicle. It's a lot easier to do it on the truck because we have that big, huge, flat truck bed, but we put all of the ERA members on the vehicle and they are riding along with us at whatever tracks that we're racing at. So it's just an extra little perk we can give them. Most of those people have never had, actually all those people have never really had the opportunity to have their name on a real life race car racing on national TV. So to be able to do that for our ERA members is just one of the things we want to do to give back to them, just for supporting the organization, for being part of our association, racing in our events and putting on great shows so that we can broadcast this out to the world.
When you talk about, I mean, you know, we see how far it's come, and I think the big thing with esports as well, right, is giving the drivers who dedicate so much time to this a chance to race for some real prizes, right? I mean, it's not just a virtual certificate or a pat on the back. I mean, I think the most exciting thing about these big ERA events, Jesse, is the fact that, you know, it's real money on the line. So it's virtual racing, but with real stakes is the line that I always like to use. And, you know, I think it's great to see that as the ERA has grown, these kind of large events has continued to grow. And mainly, you know, we talk about the accessibility of sim racing, right? I mean, you talk about most people have probably never had the chance to get their name on a car. Most people on iRacing, I'm sure, have never had the chance to drive an actual race car either, right? Self included. But with iRacing, the awesome thing is you can not only get a chance to kind of feel what that's like, right? Get the closest to real life experience as possible, but the fact that you can join a race like this, race for $4,000 to win, right? Race against the Cup Series driver and Anthony Alfredo. I think that level of entry that iRacing gives people to join is great. And I think ERA is a big part of that by doing events like this.
Yeah, a lot of great things we've had going on over the last year, just giving people opportunities to compete. When we started this whole thing, we didn't want to just be an event that just came out and just put on these big events. We didn't really give much to the drivers or anything like that. We did not want that. We wanted to be an event where people could really win real cash prizes and not just, you know, small amounts like $100, $200. We wanted people to win something that could actually change their life. $4,000 can be a life changer for some people for that year. A lot of people are going through different circumstances right now with COVID, with just the way things have been. You know, there's all these different problems going on in this world. You never know where someone's at in life. $4,000 could be it could be a game changer for people. That could be what helps get someone out of debt. Maybe it helps get someone into school. Maybe it helps them advance their sim racing career. Whatever it is, maybe it helps them get into real life racing. There's all these different ways you can use that money. And the thing is, it's not just one event in a year. We have, you know, 4 big events like this every single year, and hopefully we'll have more in the future. If you win all 4, that's $16,000. You can buy a decent vehicle with that. So there's a lot of different things you can do with the money. Everyone has a chance to come in and compete. We're not just locked in with certain drivers where these are the only drivers for the whole year. We are a series where anybody, if you didn't race in the first event, the second or the third, guess what? Go try to qualify your way in to the 4th one. If you can make it in, then hey, you have a chance to go win part of that $5,000 prize pool.
Now, another cool part of what Jesse Wuji Motorsports is doing is the fact that we have so many athletes from other sports coming into both NASCAR and also iRacing, but teaming up with former Arizona Cardinal Emmitt Smith. That's a big deal. Oh, yeah, he played for the Dallas Cowboys, too. But
yeah.
Emmitt Smith into the world of NASCAR as a part-team owner. What does it look like Emmitt is going to be doing to contribute to the NASCAR world? Because I don't think we've had a single athlete outside of NASCAR come in and just throw money. They've been parts of the sport.
Yeah, it's so awesome to see that Emmett is, joining forces with us and becoming part of our race team that we're starting here. This conversation with Emmett has been going on for almost a year. 2020, one of his companies was one of my sponsors in one of my first few Xfinity Series races. Then after that, we started coming up with this idea that we wanted to start our own race team. We figured, hey, we can do this by ourselves and try to, start from scratch and just figure this thing out and grow it eventually. Or we can partner up with a name like Emmitt Smith, Hall of Fame running back, all-time greatest running back ever in the NFL. Let's partner up with somebody like that who has a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom on how to succeed, how to have successful teams. He's great in the business world, all these different things he can bring to the table. He's bringing it to the table with this team, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to be able to produce together as a team with all of our partners and sponsors together in 2022.
Well, with that being said, we are about ready to go racing tonight from the virtual Auto Club Speedway. So let's get things kicked off by going trackside for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And that was Jared Ashley with the performance of our national anthem, One Step Closer to going green flag racing tonight from the virtual Auto Club Speedway for the 2021 Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl from sunny Fontana, California. Qualifying is complete. The cars are almost ready to go trackside, I should say, to hit the grid. In anticipation for this one, Jesse, before we get underway, what do you think is going to be one big key to win this race?
The key, like I always tell everybody, is in order to finish first, you must first finish. Strategy is going to be key in this game. Everyone has to be patient. There's a lot of room to move up and down the track, from running the wall all the way down to running the bottom of the track. So everyone has to be smart, has to be patient. It's going to be give and take. Stay in the draft. Don't lose the draft or you'll lose the pack. You just got to keep your head on the swivel the entire time, but it's going to be some exciting racing here, and I am so pumped to see these drivers go take the track right now.
We were just talking about him. Let's hear from him. For the most famous words in motorsports, we go trackside to Emmitt Smith.
Hey everybody, it's your man Emmitt Smith here. Welcome to EPM, or as we like to say, Empower People More, Omega Cup. Y'all ready to get this party started? All right, drivers, let's get ready. Drivers, start your engine.
Let's take a look at our Equity Prime Mortgage starting grid, and Garrett Maines will find himself on a pole position for this one, a 41, a 538, the best of them all. He'll be joined by Casey Kerwin in second. Former Coke Series champion Zach Novak starts in third alongside Austin Edwards, Briar LaPrade, and Cody Smith, your top six.
Row number 4 being made up first and foremost by Jason Maines. Anthony Alfredo, the NASCAR driver, alongside him. Parker Renslav makes up row number 5. Kane Anderson rounding out the top 10. Garrett Conrath and Devin George making up the first 6 rows.
Continuing on down through, Dean Webb finds himself in a lucky number 13 starting spot. He'll be alongside Brad Patton on row 7. Then you got Alex Thurber at 15th position and Chance Matting in 16th. Luke Caduff will start 17 tonight. He's alongside Bryce Cobbler about halfway home.
Paul Bergoli will be starting off inside of row number 10 alongside Donovan Strauss. Trent Cusack will start off in row number 11. Brandon Ehrgert in the 22nd position. Christopher Reagan inside of row 12. Alongside him is Guillaume Hesnal.
He'll be followed up by the likes of Thomas Brazic and Corey Raines through the top 26 positions. Aaron Ramon is 27th and Chris Papa 28th. Kyle Vallejos is 29th and Dean Gagliano is your top 30.
In 31st will be Nolan Dawson. Beside him, Matthew Baker. Douglas Newbigin will start off in 33rd. Michael Richardson in P34. And that 18th row made up by Michael Gallagher. The last car to set time, Vicente Salas, first car without time.
A couple of drivers with the EOLs will set towards the rear. That'll include Salas along with Derek Fulton, Chase Pierce, Kyle Wisner, and Jason Cameron Jr. Going to round out your 40-car grid. Again, they all had to qualify in to get out of those top 50, but those drivers will start at the rear based on no time. Let's dial up our pole sitter this afternoon. Garrett Maines has got a front row seat. Garrett, does that top spot give you a good look here? What are you looking forward to as we get set for 200 miles?
I don't know. It sets the tone pretty well, but I don't know. I think this race is going to be really interesting to see how, everybody works together at the front. It's going to be probably a lot like Michigan was in the Coke Series, with, runs probably coming from the top. So I fear that if you make a wrong move as the leader, you're going backwards in a hurry. Just going to have to see how the strategy plays out, and hopefully we're in the right place at the right time.
We've spent a lot of time on the pre-race show talking about these next-gen cars, right? It's a different challenge for you. I just watched you do a hill climb a couple of hours ago. Now you're in a next-gen car at Fontana. What are some of the challenges that you find jumping from car to car here on the surface and trying your best to be as well adapted to kind of everything?
Well, I'm kicking myself for that hill climb. I had issues with the drivers on my computer. I had to update Windows and all my graphics card stuff. And then, knock on wood, that is, fixed the problem with, I was having iRacing just crash. It could have been also the track that I was running at. I wasn't the only person with the problem. But it just, I don't know. I felt like I had a really good pace there. I think second place was extremely feasible, and I kept having issue after issue with frame drop and then just getting dropped from the session. But this is totally different, obviously. I was really enjoying the rally car. It's a good way to shake down this new VRS wheel. But definitely going to be a change of pace here. It's going to be a lot of mirror driving, and hopefully, starting from the poles, definitely a good sign. We had a pretty good gap on them too, but I don't know. we'll have to see how it all shakes out in 100 laps.
Well, we got that onboard camera with you, so for your sake, I hope every time we check in on it, it's not too exciting, but maybe for our sake, hope that there's some excitement back there. Garrett, thanks for chatting, and best of luck in this one.
I appreciate it. We had to make some sacrifices with the stream. I know they love the GoPro, but I thought it'd be cool to have for the broadcast.
It's a good look. Best of luck. That is Garrett Maines, who is best in qualifying this afternoon, but will find himself to the rear, joining some of the EOL drivers that'll start from the rear. So, very different strategies. You have to approach a race from starting on the very front and starting on the very back of this one. As you can see, our 40-car grid is loading in. One thing we haven't touched on, surprisingly, Jesse, we're racing into the night, right? There's just a hit of sunset left at a turn number 2, but once that sun gets all the way down, the temps are going to drop as well, and in iRacing, that's going to affect the track conditions, and that's just another thing these drivers are going to have to adapt to.
That is for sure. So once that sun drops, all of a sudden, you don't have that sun beaming on the track surface. And when you don't have that sun beaming on the track surface, track temperatures start lowering. When track temperatures start lowering, all of a sudden you find yourself having a little bit more grip. I mean, these guys they're already going to have a pretty good amount of grip with this high downforce. But now when you add it, people will get a little bit more racy. They will start making different moves on the sim here that maybe they would be a little bit more cautious of making if it was in real life. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers adapt adapt to that? How their strategies will change? Will they start running the bottom of the track a little bit more to pass? Will they still stay up high? And where will everyone be? There's just all these different strategies that people can take. But now track temperatures going down because the sun is going down, this will definitely change up the way people are driving. While they were practicing, they didn't have this night, so it's going to be a lot different. They're going to have to feel it out these first few laps, and we'll see what they do, Evan.
Well, as we get set to roll the cars off of the pit lane, let's bring in the fourth member of tonight's broadcast team down on the virtual pit road, Justin Prince. And Justin, you've been listening in on the driver chatter all night long. You'll be listening in and monitoring some of the strategy as this race goes on. But just based on you being around the drivers, what have they been talking about, and what are some things we should look for?
Well, when it comes to what they've been talking about, the quality of American versus Canadian milk. But in all seriousness, a lot of the drivers, in terms of their expectations for tonight, it's a mixed bag, because a lot of the drivers in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series I spoke to, amongst those, Casey Kerwin, Garrett Maines, Vicente Salas, some from the Contender series like Briar LaPrade, Donovan Strauss, all told me that this will be among their first, if not their first race ever with the NASCAR NextGen car. For some, the preparation were the heat races, as well as the final practice sessions prior to qualifying. So in other words, for a lot of these drivers entering this evening, it's a lot of unknowns, but the expectations are simple for some. Try and run towards the front, look out for trouble, expect drivers to stay grouped together, especially early on, with the pace settle them down when it comes to the car here on the service.
And the cars are now rolling. Green flag is next time by. Let's take one more look at our podium race analysis as we get set for tonight's race. Again, we've already gone through a big step, and that was qualifying earlier tonight when we took a 48-car field and sliced them down to the 40 fastest. Up next is a 100-lap, 200-mile race here at the virtual Auto Club Speedway. One fast repair, though, Devin, and no tire limits, I think, are going to be big things to look at. We already talked about the fixed setups, but that fast repair going to give these drivers a lifeline if they have issues at some point. And of course, no tire limit means that if we do have a handful of caution flags, depending on the fall off, you can expect drivers trying to get those swapped out frequently and should keep the cars pretty close on pace.
And that's another thing that these drivers are going to have to figure out as the race goes along, since a lot of these drivers do not have long green flag run experience in this machine, especially at a 2-mile track. How long does that tire take to fall off? How detrimental is it? How much speed do you lose? How much do you gain on new tires? That's going to be experimental for some of these drivers. Another factor that they will not have to fight, though, is going to be the weather. Sometimes in Southern California, it gets a little bit hot. In sim temperature outside, partly cloudy, 78 degrees. The track temperature, a mere 79 degrees. Wind, it's nothing, 2 miles an hour. So at the very least, you don't have to worry about fighting the track, just those other 39 cars at this point.
Yeah, just the other 39 cars that want to be the first to $4,000 as opposed to you. Again, the top 5 will get payouts this afternoon in that $5,000 purse, but the grand prize is $4,000. Some of the biggest names on the iRacing service ready to go racing under the lights here in Southern California. And because of those EOL penalties that we talked about that has sent a handful of drivers to the rear, including Fulton, Salas, Retzlaff, and Maines. I mean, those are some of the best guys in this field. It's going to be fun to watch them go through the field. But what that has done is it has put Zach Novak, Devin, on pole, essentially.
And for Novak, this is great for him. I'm also going to be watching Briar LaPrade. These are two guys who had a lot of experience running on Podium eSports with our Fast Fridays back when this car first came out. So these might be two of the guys with the most experience in this car. Starting up front, not what you want to see for the rest of the field.
Well, thanks for joining us on the ERA pre-race show presented by Equity Prime Mortgage. It's time to go racing. Pace car going to dive to the safety of the pit lane this time through, and the field is in the hands of the number 90 Toyota of Zach Novak. He's got a fellow Coke Series competitor alongside him in the front row in Casey Kerwin as we get set for 100 laps of racing. Pace car down and in, $5,000 on the line in the Omega Cup Winter Bowl as we say, let's go racing in Fontana. 2 miles down, and it is the driver for Ridgewood Raceway eSports in the lead. The 2019 Coke Series champion Zach Novak has led lap number 1, and we are underway, but a caution flag behind your race leaders. In trouble with Thomas Mrazek, the number 41 car, slow early. And as we take a look on the podium replay, you can see all the side-by-side racing in the pack. And ooh, that thing got twitchy and went around awfully quick on him, Jesse. It would look like a slow slide to start, but once he kind of overcorrected it there, that car seemed like it was a struggle for him to catch and just lost the 41 machine. Let's take the onboard look.
That is tough. That is very tough. So when you're in these cars and you go through the corner, sometimes when it gets just a little bit sideways, sometimes drivers will try to correct it. And when they try to correct it, sometimes they end up overcorrecting. It doesn't take that much at all to get the thing going straight again. All it takes, but if you move that wheel, maybe even just a half an inch, just a little bit too much over to the right, all of a sudden you are overcorrecting. It doesn't take just swinging the thing all the way over to overcorrect. So it looks like that's what happened with him. Man, it's terrible to see because I mean, it's only in the first couple laps of the race. He's probably going to have to use a fast repair now if he wants to keep up with the rest of the pack. And the worst part about it is he looks like he snagged a couple more other people, and they might have to use their only fast repair pretty early. And now from here on, they're going to have to be super smart on how they attack the rest of this race.
No shock that there's a lot of side-by-side racing back in the pack. What we saw up front, though, Devin, was Novak was able to get clear, and Laprada was following him down and, try to kind of hound him there as he protected that lead position. Very clear by how they were kind of slinking down the front straightaway. That breaking that draft up front is definitely going to be key if you want to maintain some positioning. But an early yellow in this race doesn't do a ton to our strategy, right? No one's really going to be coming down to the pit lane. The only downside is if you're the driver that was involved in that one, you really don't want to burn your one and only quick repair this early on. But it looks like some drivers towards the rear are going to come in for some damage repair. Garrett Maines, one of them, who dropped to the rear. Remember, he had the EOL penalty. And let me say, we're going to get some awesome shots from that onboard camera tonight. That GoPro, I think, is one of the best looks we've ever seen.
I love it, man. I was thinking, you know what, I should do that, but my rig doesn't look like anywhere that cool either. I mean, just the ability, we see in iRacing how the virtual hands look, but I'm excited to see Garrett Mann's actual hands on his physical wheel. Another thing that's difficult that a lot of people don't understand in iRacing is the button pushing. I mess up on that constantly. I go to hit my talk button and I'm having to move my hand around. It's actually a somewhat difficult part. I'm sure someone like Garrett, though, has something figured out as he peels off the pit road. But going back to that incident, actually, a couple things that maybe I wasn't expecting in practice, because we talked about how this car is kind of designed to not have to pull off the throttle. It's supposed to be kind of pack racing like. At a track like this with banking less than 15 degrees in the corners, when you're in a pack, I saw a lot of the guys either burping or getting 50% off the gas for a good portion of corner entry to set that car up and pick your line. And we're going to see these cars kind of separate, pick out their lines in both sides of the corners. One part of this really threw me for a loop when I drove in, when I was watching other cars, is how loose it actually is. So you saw one car overcorrect, got reports of Anthony Alfredo and a couple other drivers getting loose on those cold tires. And it's not just cold tires. This car does have the rear end really start to kick out on you. So this isn't going to be like a gridlock Daytona plate race. These cars still are going to have to be difficult to handle because of how loose it looks like. A lot of in practice we're having to deal with that rear end kicking out. So especially once the tires begin to wear off, that might be another part that we have to look at in the future.
It's an onboard look with Donovan Strauss back there. He finds himself back in 17th position, kind of right in the thick of things after he dropped off significantly from where that car was supposed to start. We've talked vaguely about this Auto Club Speedway, but let's talk a little bit more about it as we get set to come to the green flag. It's Southern California's premier motorsports facility, originally built on the site of a former Kaiser steel mill near Fontana in 1996 at the cost of $100 million. This racetrack has 84,000 permanent seats and is home to a NASCAR weekend in the spring. As well, Auto Club Speedway has played host to virtually every level of top-level professional motorsports in North America and is home to the world's closed course speed record, which was established back in the 2000 California 500 IndyCar race with a one-lap average of 241 miles an hour. We're not going to get that fast in these Cup Series next-gen cars tonight, but we'll be getting up there. And if you've been around racing, no surprise, this racetrack, the sister track to that of the Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. Pace car off this time. Restart procedure a little different, though. Zach Novak on the inside of the front row can control the restart when he so pleases. It's a slow roll to the restart box. Barney drops the green flag, and we're back underway.
Novak
Small
this time
advantage.
knocking it away quick.
Yeah, he only has a small advantage. I think that different restart procedure didn't help him out there much, and Briar LaPrade going to try to fight to the outside in turn 2.
I love seeing all these cars everywhere. 3 wide, 4 wide. How are they going to do it in
4 wide?
3?
Why not? Anthony Alfredo wants to join the party. That's his number 15 machine coming up the inside. He will push Casey Kerwin through, and through all of that, it's Briar LaPrade to the race lead, Jesse.
Oh my gosh, this is really cool to watch. There's so much track to use. You can go the high line, you can go the low line, you can go the mid line. I mean, there's 5, 6 cars can go wide on this track and still make it through a corner. But now we do have a caution, and we see some people in the grass.
I think it started with the 55 of Nolan Dawson. We'll see. There he is, making a move to the inside on the 22. And it just gets a little bit loose there. Almost looks like he's got it saved, and then I think he had a little bit of help once he dropped and scrubbed off so much speed trying to catch that race car. Interestingly enough, Devin, that is almost identical to the same spot on the racetrack as what we saw our first caution flag come from.
And that's all it takes. So when we go on, you see these guys are 3 wide back in the pack as well. Let's listen on in here how these tires sound and how he has to then re-maneuver the car. And you can see just how little the car got out of shape there. He really had to start correcting that wheel back to the right. It almost looked like driving the 87 cars here in iRacing. And unfortunately, once he came back up, there was nowhere to go. The car behind him can't get on the brakes. And these aren't the most fun brakes to utilize either. So just a lot of circumstances there getting out of control based off of one little slide right there. That's all it took. Come in and nothing else you can do.
And that was Garrett Maines who got into the back of him there. What a fall for Garrett Maines, who again had pole position speed but had to serve the EOL penalty to start in the rear. And now he has front end damage on his number 1 machine. That is going to force Maines to the pit lane to burn his one and only quick repair, making him quite vulnerable for the 90 laps that'll be left in this race once he gets back underway. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, Jesse, I'm calling that one a save. I know he got hit in the end, but that was Garrett Maines, of course, getting into the back of him just because he scrubbed off so much speed. But I'm going to give him credit. Why not? That was, I think, as best a driving you could get out of Nolan Dawson there for the car to break sideways, and he didn't catch it until they just ran out of room. So I'll call it a save. Why not?
Yeah, I would call it a save too. That's the thing with this track that I like a lot is on this track, you'll find yourself skating a lot. When I say skating, what typically happens is you have a decent amount of slip angle when you're going through the corner. And for those watching this broadcast wondering what slip angle means, that means the car is just slightly angled going through the corner. You're in a little bit of a drift, but you're not in a complete drift. If you find yourself in a complete drift, you'll find yourself most likely wrecking. But the car is just slipping out just a little bit, the rear end just coming out just a hair, just enough so that you can get the car rotated through the corner and set it up for a decent corner exit. But what happens is once you have all that slip angle and you are basically skating up the track, 4-wheel sliding up the track, things like this can happen. And if you overcorrect just a little too much, or you're using a little bit too much throttle, you'll find yourself, in a position where you have to slow up a little bit, and everyone else behind you who might have some grip, they're not slowing up at all, they're not lifting, and they're getting right into you. Because if they lift too early, sometimes that could cause an upset of their car, and next thing you know, they find themselves driving up towards the wall or getting hit by somebody right behind them.
A tough break puts us under our second caution flag early in this race. Under the lights tonight in Fontana for the Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl. Part of the eRacing Association, more than $4,000 on the line tonight. That's the prize pool to the race winner, $500 to second, cash payouts to all the drivers inside of the top 5. And the field is going to double up, and we will try this one again. Now, Novak really got shuffled back on the last restart of the race. He was the control car. He started on de facto pole position, was able to hold on, but the last restart he got swallowed up. Brian LaPrade passed him on the outside. Novak is down in P6, so it'll be interesting to see how Novak deals with some of the traffic in that kind of mid to late part of the top 10, depending on how well he can fire off. And we'll see what Brian LaPrade decides to do for this restart. He opts to go to the inside row and will start alongside Cody Smith. So the pace car going to be off and in. We'll put 9 laps behind us. Still 91 laps of racing to go here on Podium eSports. Brian LaPrade, right foot down. Green flag back in the air, and a much better start for him than what we saw to Novak last time through. The inside's the place to be as Kerwin gets pushed to second.
Alfredo coming with a head of steam, shoving Kerwin to the rear bumper of Brian LaPrade. Novak tucks in behind Alfredo. Now he's back inside the top 4. The 32 of Cody Smith up the track, losing a handful of positions.
A tough break. They're all going to end up on the outside wall there. 4 cars clear, side by side behind, a yellow, and there is a mess on the back straightaway. Bryce Kobler is one of the drivers involved, but I think it started well up the road with Michael Gallagher, and I think he made contact with one of the top drivers in the field back there as well. Could it be a second incident tonight for Maines? We're going to find out. You see the 39 car up top, a little bit off the pace. Jesse Carr's making the move on the bottom, and right there, a lot of speed for that car who tried to squeeze on the outside. And that 39 machine, just whatever the reason was, couldn't get comfortable in the corner and pushed up and squeezed that car who was trying to make a bit of a gutsy move, I'd say, to the outside.
Yeah, that could be a little bit of a spotter issue, but he was falling back just a little bit. Something could have been happening in the car. He could have been feeling it get a little bit loose. Maybe it felt like the tires really weren't there for him. He didn't want to push it too hard, which, going through the corner, it didn't look like he was getting out of shape. He just had to slow up a little bit. But by doing that and also not maybe paying attention to a spotter, all of a sudden he finds himself into another driver, into the wall, and then causing a wreck. And it's a chain reaction on a track like this where everyone is somewhat pack racing and everyone's really close together. They're not falling completely in line, but like it would be at a Daytona or a Talladega, but they're still pack racing. So one little screw up can cause a huge chain reaction and take out other fellow competitors who are competing in the same race.
Well, Garrett Maines was able to avoid that last incident, Devin, but he opted not to use the quick repair to clean up the damage from the previous incident. He was really close to that one. Let's get a word with the driver of the 13.
Yeah, Garrett, I know that's not necessarily the pace that you're hoping for. You want to get back up front. It looks like you're man-possessed on that short green flag run that we had, but for now, what does the strategy look for you guys in your camp and the mindset right now? Do you want to get up front immediately as soon as possible right now?
Unfortunately, as things are getting hurried up there, just got a very hefty black flag for something else. But hopefully, we can get it cleaned up and be able to make something happen here. This has been really messy for me so far. Nothing going my way, but hopefully it'll all turn around soon.
All right, so how do we adapt now for your camp? How are you thinking? Do you need to adjust your strategy, or what is your mindset right now in specific? What do you need to do right now? Is this something where it's time to pound the ground, try to get up front ASAP, or are you going, you know what, at this point, I just need patience and I'm going to have to make them?
Yeah, unfortunately, hopefully we can just have the seas open for us. We got to make something happen here, but we got time.
All right, going back for your time. Best of luck.
Here means he's going to line up way down the running order in position number 33 as the pace car will be off and away. And let's see if Brian LaPrade can replicate the great start he had last time. Pace car off and in. LaPrade alongside Casey Kerwin. Green flag flies. 88 laps to go in Fontana. It's another good jump for the inside. Kerwin, who gained on the bottom this time, losing on the outside. And Anthony Alfredo's at a race high P2. He is in the tire tracks of LaPrade in turn 1.
And you saw just how fast Zach Novak scrambled to the bottom of that black and white number 90 machine. Top 3 making a gap here on Kerwin and company.
All over the back bumper. Lap traffic up the road could be a factor, but so far Alfredo not stepping out of line. He'll wait. Now LaPrade to the inside. Alfredo going to try to wind this one up, and lap traffic will yield high. Alfredo looked like he was trying to go to the outside Jesse to set something up, but it did not work at all, and they're 3 wide now. Novak to the inside seemingly used the bottom to his advantage.
These drivers probably hate the lap traffic, but I'm loving seeing what these drivers are going to have to do to get around it. At the end of the day, lap traffic, they have to hold their own line, and these other drivers, the lead lap drivers, must find a way around them. They can't complain. They can't say, hey, lap traffic screwed me up. It is on you as a lead lap car to find your way around other drivers who are in your way. And that was pretty interesting to see how the seas just parted as everyone tried to get around that lap traffic.
The 35 machine of LaPrade still clear. Side by side for second is the Novak and Alfredo battle. Behind them, Kerwin and Conrath, and a caution flag behind. It's in turn number 4. And again, there's several drivers out and in the grass off of the corner. Jason Cameron Jr. is at least one of them. And I think Kyle Vallejos may have been at the center of this all. There was nothing out of the ordinary, Devin, going into the corner, but as they come off, the 42 is going to struggle with the exit. The 42 is going to get tight up the road right there, and it just backs everybody up, and Vallejos airborne, and the 44 machine absolutely destroyed. There's heavy damage on the 23 car of Vicente Salas as well.
And that is why I do not race in VR. Take a look up atop the number 44 machine. How quick it happens, and all of a sudden you are looking at the concrete, and that's all it takes. And a lot of drivers are really getting aggressive here early on in run. They're taking whatever blast of speed that they got, trying to utilize something with it, and this is just an outcome of that racing. Garrett Maines, this is not where you want to be. Take a look on top of his car, and you just see cars flying, and the sea kind of parts. The car, I think, went over him, so I don't know, I guess unless Garrett Maines does not have some sort of damage. He said he needed the seas to part, and that worked, I guess. So, man, Garrett Maines is just, this is not the kind of luck and not what you want to see coming out of your front windshield throughout the first 15 laps of this race.
Hey, that's one way to clear a race car, and sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. You can't avoid the wreck. Just let the car fly right over top of you, and you'll be all right with this one. As big of a hit as it was for Kyle Vallejos, he'll go to the pit lane, and he is going to use his quick repair, so he's going to get that car fixed up. He'll get it back onto the racetrack, and he'll try it again. A long way to go in this Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl. So I know it's not great to start at the rear, but when you got, 84 plus laps still to go in this race, plenty of time to make up for those mistakes. And I think for a guy like Maines as well, Jesse, you're originally thinking, listen, I'm going to start on pole, right? I mean, I'm up front. I'm going to defend track position. For him to then get the EOL and drop to the back, I think those are such different mentalities that he has to adjust to.
Definitely different mentalities for sure. When you're up front, I mean, you have just clear skies, clear air. No one's in front of you. You're just running your own race, and you're basically, holding everybody else to your pace. Whereas once you start in the back, the internal competitor in you wants to fight your way forward. You want to get past, the traffic back there because you're faster than them. You out-qualified everybody. You're the fastest on the track. But what happens is you're going to end up having to be a little bit more patient, because as you're trying to pass everybody, everyone is trying to fight their way forward as well. People are going to be in your way. They're not going to care who you are or if you qualified first. They're not going to care at all. So patience is key. You will find your way forward. The race will play itself out where the people who will get knocked out will get knocked out. out. Just stay patient. It's a long race, 100 laps. You'll find your way to the front. But if you get a little bit too aggressive too early, you'll find yourself in a tornado, in a hurricane, and that's what we've seen pretty much happen here.
So a tough fall for all of that. Justin, you have seen a lot of race cars on pit road, a lot of virtual body panels swapped out. What's been the action down there so far?
A lot of faster pairs have been used so far. A lot of strategy talk has been going on. Drivers are trying to figure out if they can make it on fuel towards the checker flag at the rate going on. But some of the drivers have also indicated that compared to some of their practice and what they were feeling earlier on, the car does in traffic feel very loose. Anthony Alfredo in particular mentioned at the start of the race, during the initial start, he nearly got so loose he overcorrected into the car, into the wall I should say, coming out of turn 4. This is not an easy car to try and master and learn, and a lot of these drivers have indicated over the radio they are learning that. But other than that, they're having a very fun time right now with their radio chatter.
I can imagine. These guys, listen, a lot of these drivers as well, very familiar with one another, so I'm sure that factors in to some of the radio banter as well. Pace car is going to be in this time. Restart procedure has changed. We will line them up single file on the outside wall, and this should give quite an advantage to Brian LaPrade to maintain, at least in the first run off the turn 1. Waiting on Barney to drop the hammer. Green flag is back in the air. 17 laps down from Fontana, and pretty good spacing at the front of the field. Alfredo's within a car length of the race leader as they're fighting a little bit further behind. LaPrade defends to the inside.
One car in the grass, some cars 3 wide in the back, but for now, yeah, they said earlier on, LaPrade and Alfredo, they just want to relax. They want to chill right now. Also, I mean, Casey Kerwin might want a spot or 2, and Garrett Conrath is looking for 3rd right now, but if these 2 can break away from the rest of the field, yes, these guys are just going to relax for a little bit.
Yeah, they got a pretty good jump, and I think that lead 6 or so have a bit of an advantage over 7th place on back. That's about a 4/10 of difference between Austin Edwards in 6th and Brad Patton in 7th. So that lead pack may be an opportunity to get away if they so choose. Kerwin, though, on the outside of the battle for the number 3 spot. There's a look at Guillaume Hesno riding in 14th position right now, racing from overseas in France. On this race, we talk about all the cool things about iRacing. Drive any car you want, drive any track you want. That lower barrier of entry, well, you could also race with anybody all across the globe. And Guillaume has had a very good start to the race. He's in the green by 9 positions as we see those top 2 just stay in line. Alfredo and LaPrade try to work together. And Jesse, as we take a look with Zach Novak, a lot of drivers have compared how this car races on a track like this to a Daytona, right, in Talladega. At those tracks, if you get 2 teammates or guys that are working together at the front of the field, they can very easily control the draft. I think it's going to be a little bit trickier here, but maybe LaPrade and Alfredo will try to do so.
You definitely have to team up with some people during this race, especially early. By the end of the race, when we get down to the final 15, 20 laps or so, people will probably stop working with each other as much. But there will still be a few that know that, hey, we can inch it just a little bit more. Let's just work together at least until maybe the final 5 laps before we start all doing our own thing. But here at a track like this, it's just so cool to see all the different strategies going on. It's a 2-mile track. But with these cars, it feels like Daytona in a way, but it feels like an intermediate track as well. But it feels like everything. You can race all over the place. You can see people going down low, people going through the middle, people running up high. I mean, there's so much room. But even with all the room, that it doesn't mean that this track is easy at all. As you can see, these drivers are fighting to hang on to this car every single lap. And that's exactly why we wanted to pick this track with this particular car, with this particular setup, so that we could get drivers really having to drive these cars. People initially thought, oh yeah, it's just gonna feel exactly like Daytona. Just stand on it. It's real easy to get through the corners. It's never gonna get loose. No, we are seeing that these things are not that easy to drive. And now people are really giving respect to a car that deserves all the respect.
There's a look at Donovan Strauss on board, running in what was at the stripe last time by P6, but 3rd car in line down on the bottom. You see LaPrade wash it up a little bit in the middle. LaPrade Almost getting touched there by Donovan, but
so close.
Tucking line. Listen, if I was that close to someone's quarter panel, I'd be freaking out. And all Donovan did was crack a smile when he nearly got into him off of turn number 2. So that drops down Laprade from the race lead, and Anthony Alfredo goes to the top of the board. Novak second, Kerwin third, but Laprade's going to try to fight back, and he goes under the 38 car and has the advantage now back to turn 1.
And guys, how about Strauss working the wheel that much? He was on that thing going through the corners. We now bring out another caution flag. Looks like Corey Range having some issues, but that just goes to show you, especially coming off of turn 2 when they were 3 wide, he was working that wheel, and you know that a lot of other drivers are having that kind of issue as well.
And that was another one of those incidents where it kind of snowballed into something much bigger than how it started, and Dean Webb was the driver. There it is. The 09 gets hooked. He was fighting with the 5 machine behind of Jason Maines, and yeah, that's a snowball effect there. Webb goes from just kind of a haphazardly spin through the grass to then get it absolutely run over from behind, and this will give you a better perspective on board with the number 18 of Richardson. The initial contact's going to happen way up the road. See them way out there in turn 4. There's the contact. There's the spin. At this point, again, there's no yellow, though, and unfortunately that car comes up. Ugh, there was nowhere for him to go.
That looked like it hurt. Well, at least it's virtual. Yeah. At least
that's the takeaway. That's the takeaway. He doesn't have to pay for it literally and figuratively. The car's not going to cost anything, and he's not really going to feel that one in the morning. I think it's interesting, though, Jesse, you know, the race leaders, we've seen 2 wide, 3 wide, even at a glimpse 4 wide. The incidents that we've seen so far, though, happen in traffic. Is it just because there's so many moving parts and so many cars back there that, you know, you got so many people passing and getting past that you're just more likely to end up with cars on top of each other, especially right off of a restart?
That's what's definitely going to happen throughout this race. You know, the incidents we're seeing, you know, another thing to note really with them is in some of these other races, like when we ran at Bristol, when we ran at some of these other tracks, what we typically saw was when cautions were occurring, they were occurring because someone took someone out. Whereas the cautions we're seeing right now are more of just drivers just sometimes some of them not being able to hang on to the car. It's really that difficult to drive these things. The viewers at home who are watching this, some of them, this might be their first time ever watching an ERA event, watching people compete on iRacing, and hopefully this shows them that it is not easy. This isn't just an arcade game. It's not that simple to just drive these things. This isn't like any other game. This is truly a sim. It is very difficult to drive these vehicles on this track. It feels just like it does in real life. Once the Cup Series drivers in February head to the track and race, I'm not saying we're going to see this many cautions at first, but people are going to have a difficult time hanging on to it, especially when you add the elements to it, like wind, like sunlight on the track, track temps, all that kind of stuff really affects everything. So it's very interesting to see what these drivers are going through. And we thought with the cooler temps they would get better grip. But what I'm learning is those cooler temps are making it difficult for these tires to maybe get as warm as they need to early on in the run. Maybe after they go about 5, 6, 7, 8 laps, maybe they'll get warm enough where they've had the grip necessary to really throw it into the corner. We'll see.
Well, a lot of cars were down onto the pit lane that time. Justin, the top 8 in the running order, though, have yet to come down pit road tonight.
That was actually a lengthy discussion when it came to Anthony Alfredo, Zach Novak, and Briar Laprade to figure out, okay, should we come down and pit at the time of this caution flag? The consensus, especially from one of the main crew chiefs for their respective cars tonight, Logan Sheets, was no, not yet based on the tire run. So those drivers currently prioritizing the track position with the amount of green flag laps. Should be worth noting that Zach Novak did report a little bit that he was feeling a little bit tight during that run prior to the caution flag. Among the drivers who just came down to the pit lane as well, by the way, Garrett Maines had mentioned that this restart will be something that will help him. His car is still suffering with significant damage right now, Evan. He still has the fast repair in bank just in case. He's right now amongst those considering potentially using it and being able to charge on forward throughout the rest of the run once he does take it. Jason Maines is also struggling with some damage. He just finished his repairs as well, but will have to start towards the back. Too many pit boxes rolled on through.
A tough break there, and I wonder as well, when you get drivers involved in incidents early, if that's going to kind of force the hand of some of these drivers to go a bit off strategy, right? I mentioned that we haven't seen anybody in the top 8 pit. That's why they're running up front, right? Guys like Donovan Strauss and others have gained double digits in the running order simply because they have yet to come down to the pit lane. But then there's also guys like Vicente Salas, Derek Fulton, and Kyle Vallejos. Those are names that we have been talking about having been involved in incidents tonight. Well, they've pitted as recently as 10 laps ago, and they're in 12th, 13th, 14th, right? So they have fresher tires, not really by design, but it's just kind of ended up that way than the guys in front of them. So now we'll kind of get an idea if we can get a couple laps in on how good fresh tires are, and that'll dictate, I think, the strategy for the rest of this race. Pace car back down and in. Anthony Alfredo going to get his first crack at leading the field as his Ford Mustang puts the right foot down, goes through the gears, and we are a quarter distance from Fontana.
The real-world NASCAR Cup Series draw, fortunately, it does not bring along his teammate Brian LaPrade, now trying to close back in. They keep him 2 by 2, multiple rows deep. Might we see another group breakout here to open things up in the screen flag run?
A lot of pushing going on down the back straightaway. You got to make sure that you get the push down the straight, you know, to get the speed, Jesse, to help the car out in front of you. But you got to get off the bumper once you get to the corner. Otherwise, you'll just shove that guy into the fence.
Yeah, it's definitely some give and take for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to get to the end of the race. So if you're trying to be a little bit too aggressive, you're pushing people, you're hitting people, you're touching them, all that stuff, these cars are going to get more loose. Everyone is struggling just to hang on to the car by themselves. Now you start adding the element of the force your car can put behind someone or to the side. All this stuff will affect these drivers and make it even more difficult to drive, which will cause more wrecks. So they got to be smart. Stay off each other for right now. Really wait till the last few laps of the race if you got to put a bumper on somebody. But right now, putting a bumper on somebody will not help. will not help you that much at all.
And seeing the top 2 get a little bit of daylight as they break away off of turn 2. That's Novak, trailed by the 37 and Donovan Strauss. Turn 4, I should say. Strauss from 20th to 2nd in the opening laps of this race. Is behind them, you got guys getting up to race high positions. Salas, Matthew Baker, and others trying to join the conversation, but at least at the moment, Novak leading atop the 37 machine. They seem pretty calm and poised at the moment. Your traffic is highly condensed. The top 14 drivers are within 1.5 seconds of each other. It spaces out a little bit further back as the 7 car Retzlaff is that black and yellow Toyota down on the bottom of the racetrack trying to make some moves, but it's just funny seeing these drivers try all these different lanes. Devin, this is a very wide Auto Club Speedway, and I don't really think there's a consensus yet on where the best lane is.
We're with Vicente Salas, and yeah, that's exactly the point, because it looks like, oh, it's the inside lane on the restart. Well, that's because the leader is there. Some drivers are automatically going, we need to be in the top lane, but much like any plate race, it's in part being where everybody else is and having that flood of momentum pushing cars in front of you. And we talked earlier about this next-gen car and all the different variables, the new things that it brings to the Real Life Cup Series and to iRacing. One thing that Justin Prince is reporting from down on pit road and different drivers going, I don't know when to shift into 5th gear. These cars do not have 4 gears as we always have had it in NASCAR. It's in 5th gear, so almost like running the Indy cars at this track here on iRacing. We go from 5th to 6th, and right now, Jesse, some of these drivers are going, when do I go from 4th to 5th?
It definitely is confusing. That is for sure. I've driven this car a few times on some other tracks, and I've asked myself that question as well. I'm like, do I go into 5th gear? I remember the first time I drove it at Darlington for one of the races that iRacing was doing on Fox Sports 1. And it was very interesting because I was like, do I get into 5th for this? Do I stay in 4th? It seems like 4th works, but 5th also works too if I drive it a certain way. I don't know. So, yeah, it is going to take a little bit of getting used to, especially all the different tracks you go to, because there might be some where 5th just isn't one that you want to use. You just want to stay in 4th, or maybe you're playing the fuel mileage game, so you're just shifting to 5th, and maybe you're getting a little bit more better fuel mileage than some other drivers. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of strategy changing in NASCAR from here on with this new next-gen car, 5-speed, sequential box. So many different things are changing, but I love to see these guys driving in this pack. It's not even like, it doesn't feel like a super speedway pack. It feels like some type of combination of intermediate super speedway all together, where they're not just sitting there just shoulder to shoulder and that's it. I mean, they're all together but not together, and it is so cool to see them racing like this. This is what pack racing should be like.
It's good stuff up towards the front of the field. As you can see, 1, 2, and 3 broke it away from the battle behind. Kerwin on the outside this time, the better lane. Both he and the 26 machine of Patton and even the 23 Salas all passing Brian LaPrade the last lap. So LaPrade lost 3 positions just because he was stuck on the bottom, and all those other cars were working in a line on the outside. Another onboard look with Strauss, still in second spot. Hasn't made any aggressive moves for the race lead. Pretty calm in the number 2 position as Novak racking up the laps led this time by. He'll lead his 12th of the night. LaPrade has the most laps led of 15. His march back towards the front has him stalled out right now at about P7 in the midst of all the chaos behind.
Boy, I love the way that 51 looks on that Space Station gaming machine. On board here with Brian LaPrade. 2 things that I guess one thing I'm really interested in, both in Strauss and Pratt, is how they work that wheel. You kind of see, especially here, so there's those NASCAR stripes, the yellow, the red, the blue. That signifies where the center of the wheel typically is, unless you have some sort of strange offset in your car. What I was noticing a lot with both Strauss and also right there was the fact that they're holding that wheel almost center in certain parts of the corner. And in part, that's telling me that these cars are either turning too well, or they're getting really loose, and as these tires wear out, especially on this car, the car really becomes a handful to watch. But so you see the white really easily on Strauss. So he goes into the corner, really pushes it, and it comes back center once, comes back center again. And he's not even on the straightaway yet. So he's really playing a lot of different inputs into that wheel. It almost feels like something that you'd have at a plate race when you're really trying to correct that car in the middle of the corner.
And you can see the difference between, the 2 drivers and also the similarities, right? I mean, they're basically at a very similar spot on track at the same time, and you can see the inputs almost mirror each other. As you can see onboard look with Strauss now on the right-hand side, still chasing Novak, and I talked about drivers wanting to maybe control the pace a little bit. I think that Strauss being patient and not forcing Novak into a side-by-side battle has helped those 2 stay at the front of the field. I don't think we've had cars stay 1-2 this deep into a run so far tonight, and it's left all the battling be behind them for third on the back. Strauss has got a run. Instead of going to the inside, he simply pushes Novak down the straightaway, and it benefits both of those cars, Jesse.
This pack racing is absolutely incredible. I love this because no one's just falling in just one line like the super speedways. They're all over the place, but together. This is so cool. People are moving around. They don't just stick to one line on the track. It's not like it's just the bottom and right above that. I mean, they can go wherever they want on track, but they're staying all together. Even the top 2, top 3 can't truly break away. Yeah, they're just up front there. Yeah, they're probably controlling the pace a little bit, but they can't really break away completely. I mean, they start losing them a little bit, but everyone catches back up. They start losing them a little bit, everyone starts catching back up. The 10 cars all together just battling it out. The 10th car could easily make his way up front. And once again, you don't have to just stay in one single line. You can move all over the track and still stay with everybody. This is absolutely incredible. I think this is exactly the kind of racing that NASCAR wants.
All on top of each other. The top 10 drivers now have broken significantly away, Devin, from the rest of the field. Austin Edwards is kind of in limbo in 11th position, but if you count him out, Brian LaPrade in 10th is some 4.2 seconds ahead of Garrett Conrad. So Edwards has got no draft from in front and no draft from behind, and you can see how far ahead the lead pack is from Edwards. It's almost double that to Conrad, who leads the second pack from P12 on back. So this is good for these guys up front. They're not necessarily that disciplined, right? I mean, you'll try to separate yourself in a typical plate race, a Daytona, Talladega, by getting people organized, riding in line single file. And again, we're not 100% there with this package, which is why you see cars all over the road. But I just find it interesting that despite how aggressive the guys up front have been racing, they've been able to get the biggest advantage tonight and get way ahead of the rest of the field.
And we saw Zach Novak and Donovan Strauss working together at the front of the field, and that allowed them to build up a bit of a bubble. But for some of the younger NASCAR fans, they're going to get nostalgic, I think, in this race. We're seeing some sort of Suedo tandem drafting. 2 cars working together up front and separating themselves from the pack has seemed to be what has made the difference to get cars away from one another. But they just can't keep it up for too long. Eventually, either someone catches behind or they have to move. So that's been interesting. I know younger NASCAR fans are going to love that. On board with Garrett Maines, man, I love looking at his wheel. Look at that, and right now he's doing what he can. I don't know if he wants to pass guys, or maybe he's trying to also just be in that draft. We saw him practice around 5-mile-an-hour difference between being in the draft and not being in a draft down those straightaways. Doesn't sound like a lot, but on this 2-mile track, that's a lot of time you're giving up if you are not in a draft.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed there with the onboard, Jesse, was that on the straightaway, and it does have a kind of a wide, slow curve, right? The D-shaped oval here is kind of a big curved front stretch, whereas the back stretch is straight. Even on that curved front straightaway where the car has to turn a little bit to the left, it was actually turning the wheel to the right. And then when he got into the corner, the wheel wasn't turned that far to the left. Is that the car, or is that something that he's doing with setting up his steering?
Well, it just depends. Every driver has different steering ratios that they like to use. Some drivers will use an 8-to-1, some will use a 10-to-1, some will use 12-to-1 box, 14-to-1. That's just the steering ratio for the steer box that drivers are setting up their cars for, and that's one of the few adjustments you can actually make on your car. Some people like to do the whole 14-to-1 thing, and to me it feels like they're driving a school bus. I like to stay on track like this, 10-to-1. 10-to-1 basically makes it feel a little bit more sporty in the car, but you got to be careful because it is very twitchy when you do that. Any little movement makes a huge difference in your steering. So going up that front stretch and just kind of keeping it a little bit to the right and then going to the corner and barely turning to the left, that means that the car is probably feeling super loose. So it's turning in very well and rotating very well, but you can't overdo it. So you're only using a little bit of wheel to do that. It's not like a normal street car where you're driving 30, 40 miles per hour on the street and you got to use a lot of wheel to get the thing to turn. On these tracks, just a little bit of wheel makes a huge difference.
We saw the move by Vicente Salas, who nearly got sent into the fence about a lap and a half ago. Then he was up in front. Now he's down in fifth. I mean, it is extremely challenging for these drivers to just maintain any track position, Justin.
Yes, indeed. And one of the main emphasis being made by several of the competitors throughout the field is if they've got a run, they have to take it. If they don't, they have to start defending towards the top. That is what's being reported to be the trend, where with the draft being so strong for some of the drivers feel like they need to run along the outside wall, sometimes especially in the corners, to be able to try and defend the various runs going on. One of the main things talked about by some of the drivers, though, is how will tire saving fare out? How will the fuel mileage fare out? That's some of the questions being raised by Casey Kerwin and Anthony Alfredo specifically. So there's a lot of discussion when it comes to how this is all playing out right now, with this being the longest run of the race for some of these competitors. In some cases, some of the longest runs on extended tires in this car.
Yeah, remember, some drivers up here towards the front have not taken any fresh tires. It includes Novak, Strauss, and LaPrade 1, 2, and 3. They are all on tires that are 43 laps old. Now, of course, you save a little bit of wear when you have a caution flag, and there's been a bit of that, but certainly Vicente Salas' 28-lap-old tires are far better than the 43-lap-old tires in front of him, and that's why we've seen Vicente drive his way up towards the front here, Devin, and try to join the party up front.
And I think that's going to continue to bring him up through the field. Again, some of these drivers just do not know yet how bad do the tires get, how much fall do they have, how quickly, right? So Salas, though, doesn't have to worry about that. He knows that he can probably gun it a little bit harder than everyone else, gain that time here, gain that time there. On board here with Devin George using that extreme. And again, this is someone right now stuck in 18 or stuck in 25th. It's kind of stuck in no man's land. The draft behind, still difficult to find a good burst of momentum, and that's where these drivers who burst away from the have really gotten themselves in a better position than everyone else, especially if we do get green flag stops, particularly for fuel, but that's still to be seen. Oh, and how about Luke Knupp, right around that 8th position, the Arizona off-road desert racer in real life. Right now trying to work his way back up to this pack. He had that pack. Now it's down to 7 cars because it's something so simple falling off the line and then cars continue to push away. So easy to lose the pack.
Yeah, he has done a great job. You mentioned all the off-road experience in the real world, but he has got a ton of short course experience on the sim, driving in a NASCAR NextGen car. We are on the doorstep of halfway home from Fontana. We'll step aside and go side by side so you don't miss a moment. Zach Novak is leading. You're watching the ERA Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl on Podium eSports.
It means a lot to have this opportunity to race full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
We're reaching a community that needs to be transformed in terms of unlocking their mental potential with this opportunity with EPM.
The American gift is right here. It's embodied in this opportunity. It's embodied in all of us. It's not a dream. It's an opportunity. This is America, and everything is possible.
I'm just super happy and proud to be part of this whole team and this organization and everything we're going to do from here on out.
When you put that combination of talent, hard work, and opportunity together, it lends itself to be something great. And I look forward to seeing what it matures to.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody out there. Very grateful that we get to do this, we get to have fun, and more importantly, that we're all going to make a difference together. Thank you so much.
And back live from the virtual Auto Club Speedway, closing in on halfway home in tonight's eRacing Association Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl. Zach Novak is in the lead as we welcome you back inside the podium booth alongside Devin Henry, Jesse Wuji, myself, Evan Pasoko. Justin Prince is on pit lane, and our producer Ryan Bauer is downstairs. Novak has now led a race high 27 laps without a pit stop, but guys like Parker Retzlaff have been struggling on some of the older tires. Retzlaff trying to get up to the likes of Casey Kerwin there and fight for position. This time by, it'll be 50 laps down and 50 laps to go. So let's take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, and all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and so many more. Well, not much more can be said about the likes of Zach Novak, a former Cup Series champion. He has been in this conversation all night long, and he currently leads atop Donovan Strauss, who, despite starting back in 20th, very quickly worked his way up and into the front of the field. Brian LaPrad's been there all night. But, you know, Vicente Salas is up 32 positions, Jesse. He's in fourth, ahead of Cup Series driver Anthony Alfredo. I mean, this is just a who's who on the sim world in the top 10. Casey Kerwin is P6. Parker Retzlaff is P7. But then you got some interesting names up there with those Coke guys. Brad Patton in 8th. Luke Canup in 9th. And even Caden Anderson in 10th is bringing it to him.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see all the different drivers in here. It's cool to see real-life drivers racing in this race. We have people who race ARCA, Xfinity, Cup, all that racing in these races. And then, folks who just, strictly stay on the sim. So it's great to see all these different drivers coming together, showing their skills. And even for the Cup Series drivers racing in the race, just because you're racing in real life and Cup doesn't mean that you're going to be the best on the sim. There's people on the sim who are really, really good, that practice their craft on here daily basis, hours and hours and hours, and they're really good at racing on the sim. But it's cool to see everyone coming together and really fighting and battling for this $5,000 prize pool.
And then right after that top 10, you have a pack that they don't even want to pass each other. They're just trying to be conservative and make up ground. Garrett Conrad started 11th. He's still 11th, but he was in that front pack. Wants to get back there. Derek Bolton right now sitting in 12th. Garrett Maines, who's been sent to the back of the pack, what is it, 3 times now? He's now in 13th position. And then on board here with Matthew Baker. Started P24. He is up 10 positions now. Got the onboard, got the Hendrick Motorsports number 5 panel behind him. Also has that number 5 shirt. If I had to guess, looks like Kyle Larson maybe. Doing a good job so far tonight. Cody Smith right now in the 15th position. He started up front, sliding back. But how about someone to keep an eye on maybe? Jason Cameron Jr. involved in a wreck and also started 39th. Cameron Jr. now sitting in the 16th position, riding his way up through the field. Christopher Reagan in 17th. Cal Viejos, another driver who had some bad luck. He's in 18th. Douglas Newbegin is in 19th, and then Corey Range in 20th. So a few different storylines going on inside that top 20 right now, Jesse.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see, looking at these lap times, all these drivers are within about a 10th or so, a 10th or 2 from each other on track, and it's probably because of all the drafting that they're doing. I mean, you see these groupings of drivers. You got the top 10 really grouped together. You got 10th through 20th really grouped together. Everyone just has their little packs that they're running with. It's difficult for the entire, field of 40 drivers to all race together in an entire race, but these small little group packs is really cool to see because you can throw a blanket over each group because they're so close, battling it out, but it's going to get interesting once we close in on the final laps of this race to see who's really going to break out and try to make their way up forward. But being in that 10th or 20th is difficult because how are you going to catch up to that top 10? What are you going to do? Is the caution going to come out and allow you to group that together? I don't know, but we'll see.
And it's even tougher if you're outside of the top 20 because Corey Range in 20th is 9 seconds off of the race leader. Jason Baines in 21st, 16 seconds off of the race leader. He's in a little 4-car pack that's got Devin George in 22nd, Bryce Kobler 23rd, and Dean Webb in 24th. And then you got the likes of Cusack, Chris Papa running on board, Aaron Raymond. You got Paul Brigoli, Dean Gagliano in 29th, and even Brandon Agerchich in 30th. Those are the final couple of drivers on the lead lap as here come the leaders. Novak brings them down, and I'd say that was a pretty clean pit lane entry, all things considered, Devin. 55 miles an hour down pit road.
And there looks like to be a lot of different variations in fuel, Justin. What are you hearing from the drivers right now?
Yeah, variation among some of the drivers at the front of the field has been reported to be up to a gallon for some, depending on how much clean air they've had and where they've been able to draft. But for Anthony Alfredo, who reported a few laps ago that he had some left for damage as a result of a little bit of contact with some of the shuffling in the lead pack. He did say, though, right around that time, that he felt like he liked the car right now and felt like it was working for him. As well, these drivers in this group, they've been very confident in terms of being able to tandem and work together. When it comes to Donovan Strauss and Zach Novak, they felt very comfortable in how they've been able to bump each other down the straightaway, specifically Strauss to the back and Novak as a result of how Strauss had been building up runs. But a bit of trouble down this pit exit with Kerwin getting the run. Novak nearly looped it on the access road.
And Kerwin's going to end up as the lead car in that pack on the race off of pit road. And now the question is, where do those drivers blend out and everything? Still 22 cars have yet to pit in front of the race leaders. So Kerwin may have taken the lead in this pack, but it's only good enough for 23rd on a bunch of spinners. Kerwin is sideways, and a caution as the cold tires catch out the lead pack.
Wow.
Donovan Strauss and Casey Kerwin got so sideways, and eventually it was Kerwin who I think got the damage from it, and a yellow flag is out. And now those race leaders are going to be a mile behind the cars who had yet to pit. And look how quickly it happens, Jesse. Cold tires, you know you need to be careful with them, but I don't think they were expecting it to happen that quick.
Everyone got really comfortable with those warmer tires as we went on a very long green flag run. And people got comfortable, they got the feeling, they're like, okay, this is how the car is going to handle. I know exactly what to do. Here's my, that muscle memory set in, and it set in a little bit too quick, got people a little bit too comfortable. Next, you know, they went in and got fresh tires. And typically on the older cars, when you get those fresh tires, all of a sudden you feel the better grip immediately. I mean, it comes on right then. But now with these new tires, with the new way they have these cars set up, those fresh tires aren't always as great as you want them to be on the first couple laps, and they didn't let them set in, and guess what happened? Loop-de-loop-de-loop.
So what does this do? Because all the cars who didn't pit are headed to pit road right now. So Garrett Conrath pits from the race lead, Derek Fulton from second, Garrett Maines from third. They are all going to come in for 4 tires and a fuel. It's also notable that these drivers are going to be good on fuel from this point to the end of the race, Justin.
Yes, indeed, and some big sadness when it comes to some of the drivers just involved in the incident. Anthony Alfredo, the first words after that incident, can't plead being careful so many more times. But this is now big for drivers like Garrett Maines, who had been banking on that fast repair for this point of the race. He had felt like he had been on the struggle bus in the second pack prior to the caution flags. He's now in a great position up towards the front. Race off the pit lane, the first one to the cone, Garrett Conrath, followed by Maines. Of note, LaPrade and Retzlaff, the only 2 drivers who were able to stay out after that trouble.
The big thing is those drivers, LaPrade and Retzlaff, were the only guys in the group where the incident came from that aren't damaged. And another big thing as well is that, Devin, they didn't get stuck a lap down, and that's mainly because you were pitting from the race lead. You're spending 44 seconds on pit road. We're looking at lap times of the low 40s. If anybody else had pitted and that yellow came out, they would have been trapped a lap down. But fortunately for LaPrade and Retzlaff, they were on the lead lap when the caution came out, so they will not get stuck behind everybody. And on 3-lap older tires, albeit, they will be able to stay out under the yellow, and LaPrade cycles back to the race lead. Retzlaff will go to second, and then Conrath, the first driver off of pit road, will end up in third. So that was disaster for the lead pack. But for LaPrade and Retzlaff, at least, they are still in this conversation, cycling back to the lead.
Sometimes I guess it just works out, because that could have been detrimental to the entire night. But yeah, and not really having any older tires, that's really going to help them be able to just have an even run once we go back green flag racing. So for LaPrade and Retzlaff, that's great for them. But for someone like Garrett Conrath, he's been sitting like 10th, 11th the whole race. Well, now he gets to restart inside the top 5. And Garrett Maines, who's been sent to the back of the pack due to EOL, due to this wreck, due to that wreck, he now restarts in 4th. How the tables have turned for Garrett Maines.
And what an opportunity now for the likes of, Fulton as well, Smith, Reagan, Range, Cameron, Newbigin. I mean, those are drivers that we really haven't talked a ton about, Jesse, and in the blink of an eye, they are right in the thick of things up front.
What did I tell you earlier? In order to finish first, you must first finish. You have to be patient. Patience is the key. Every time I get on iRacing and I compete in any of the official races on there as I'm racing, I see so much aggressive driving. People just trying to just fight their way forward as quick as possible. And I laugh, but I'm like, it's not worth it. I don't care where you're going to start. Just be patient. The first, second, third, the top 5, top 3, whatever you want to call it, it will come to you. As long as you're patient, you just run good, clean, solid laps, keep up the pace, it will come to you, I promise. And that's what these drivers have done. And now they found their way up front. But hey, we still got 40 laps to go. So there's still a lot of racing to go. A lot of things can happen. We'll see what happens when they drop this green flag.
We hit the reset button, pace car down and in, and a restart with 39 laps to go from Fontana. Green flag is back in the air, and how will LaPrade and Retzlaff now race around a lot of drivers that they really haven't been around all night long? Garrett Maines, who had the de facto back to the front challenge after starting on the rear, having some issues early. He's right there in the number 1 car in third. He'll go to the outside. Follow Parker Retzlaff, and Garrett Maines is all the way to second.
The high line, Chugga is up front, and just like that, that's lined up in front of Cody Smith. Back single file we go, but we'll see if Retzlaff and Maines try to work together. Where you see the hands right now of Garrett Maines. Is he looking to go P1 after qualifying up front? Ooh, another yellow flag now out on track.
Oh, it is the huge one. Half the field is wrecking on the front straightaway. Trent Cusack is barrel rolling in the grass. That is a lot of torn up virtual race cars, and it all popped off at a turn number 4, possibly with the number 71 car of Corey Range. And I mean, you can see it's already a mess here when you come off of the corner. There's a big hit, and there is not many cars that were behind where it started that avoided it, and that's because it started with Corey Range, who was in the top 10, and again, just got sideways. But he's not the only one, Jesse. It looks like they're driving through oil on the racetrack. It's the exact same thing that happened to the lead pack after the green flag cycle of pit stops that brought out the previous yellow. The tires were cold, they got loose in that very same spot, and this time it happened to like a half a dozen race cars at once.
I'm trying not to laugh, but it was a little bit funny. I mean, people spinning, people hitting each other, people hitting the wall, somebody barrel rolling through the grass. You're seeing it all, but that's what makes the sim fun. You can see all this stuff, and you can laugh about it because no one's really getting hurt. People can make mistakes, things happen, and yeah, we're seeing the big one right there. We knew that was going to happen because we're going to have this type of pack racing, high-speed pack racing, but not in line, everyone all over the place. We're going to see things like this, and this might not be the last one.
Zach Novak was up at the front of the field. Instead, he got suckled back in traffic and survived the crazy melee there that led to the most recent yellow flag. So the 90 machine, after having a big setback, is back inside of the top 15 just like that. Devin, let's chat with the driver of the 90 car.
Yeah, Zach, you've been running up front for most of the times tonight, and then that caution comes out. It's been working for you, though. It seemed like you got out of speed right out of the gate.
Yeah, just, have a few friends out here, so, been lucky with that. Been able to kind of just work together to try and keep that track position. And then when we came out of pit road there, all of us thought we had like flat right rears or something. We came out, and obviously the track's completely dark, so we came out and there was just no grip at all. So we all just were spinning, and we thought we had flat right rears or there was some kind of glitch or something. So that's why I came back down last caution, just to make sure that I had fresh tires on it. I'm confident I can get back to the front, though. I feel pretty comfortable in the draft, and obviously the experience we had in the Coke Series for the last quarter of the year or so with a similar draft model to this really helps that. So should be back up in the front here soon, but just an unfortunate situation to say the least.
Restarting third is the key to get back up front.
Just gonna have to play the lines right and pick and choose my spots and not rush things. Still got a long way to go, 35 to go when we take the green here. So just can't be too aggressive, but can't be too patient either, and we'll be up there soon.
Getting ready to restart. Appreciate the time. Best of luck, Zach.
Thank you.
It's a chat with Zach Novak. As I mentioned, he has worked his way back up through the field in 13th position. Plenty of time for the former Coke Series champion to get back and into the conversation here late in this race. As each yellow now, you start to question, is it going to be the last restart? This string of yellows now going to get it back-to-back? We started this race with a handful of yellows and then broke out into a long green flag run that saw the leaders get to green flag pit stops before they were the cause of the caution. So it's very clear that cold tires are a little bit sketchy, I think, to say the least, and that's going to be something that these drivers are monitoring, I think, very carefully on the next two laps. You're going to get them up to temp before you could be all too aggressive with them. Pace car going to be off this time. We go back to that side-by-side restart procedure once more. Retzlaff in control. That's the number 7 machine on the inside. Garrett Maines is number 13 to the outside. We'll restart in second. Green flag flies. We're back underway. 35 laps to go.
Very quickly, Red front slot in front of Garrett Maines, so looking to use that, almost getting a shove into turn number 1. Slap.
To look on board with Devin George, he tucks in line as he races at a turn number 2 in the number 8 spot in line. Looks like most cars opting for the top side, and they're going to swallow up Briar LaPrade again. He loses so many positions by riding on the inside line. That's the second time tonight I've seen him lose at least 3 spots just by getting out of line. I think it goes to show you, Jesse, how critical it is to stay where the other cars are and stay in the draft.
Staying in the draft is crucial. Once you get out of it, you're backing up. I mean, you got to stay with these cars, but sometimes you feel like you're getting a run. You want to sneak inside, you want to sneak outside, see if you can slingshot on by them, but sometimes it's not going to work. You got to time it out really, really well, but a lot of these drivers don't have a ton of experience when it comes to drafting in the Gen 7 cars on a 2-mile track like Auto Club Speedway. So a lot of different things being tested out, a lot of different strategies being tested out right now. Some people are learning the hard way, some people are getting lucky, some people maybe have a ton of experience already on this and know exactly what to do. So we're going to see how this whole thing plays out, but I'm just loving how everyone's staying in the close pack and just battling it out, trying to make their way up for it.
And the interesting thing here is, for the first time in a long time, everybody's on the same strategy, right? We had so many drivers splintering off, trying their own little strategies after those yellows in the opening quarter of this race, that it's been a while since we've seen this many cars on par with one another. Cameron, with a huge run, gets blocked out by Derek Fulton, who slides up and shuts the door for position. The 40 car behind as well, trying to work with Kyle Vallejos and some of the other drivers working through here, but Retzlaff and Laprade holding their own. That 3-lap difference on tires, clearly at this point not going to be a game changer. Let's see what Matthew Baker sees as he rides in P11. Novak is to his inside, and that's some concentration. You talk about the number 5 Kyle Larson shirt that he's got on. I think that's a Casey Kane number 5 door panel on the wall. I mean, a lot of drivers like to collect stuff from the racing world. I've got a couple of pieces of sheet metal myself. Jesse, do you keep anything from your cars at home in the office?
No, if I'm keeping something at home from a car, that means most likely I wrecked. And that means it's a bad memory, so I don't want it.
I was going to say standards only. You don't want a piece of the car. He only keeps the trophies. That's all that matters. As we jump back on board there. And there's another look with Chance Manning, who's right behind the likes of Devin George and Conrath and the aforementioned Vallejos and some of the other drivers. I mean, the one thing that the race leaders really lose with this yellow is that massive gap. Remember, we were talking about a pack being 6 seconds back, a pack being 11 seconds back. Now everybody feels like they have a shot to win it, and they're racing like they're going for the win right now at lap number 70.
Exactly. We have a little bit of a slim margin starting to build between, I don't know, like Anthony Alfredo and Donovan Strauss, 11th and 12th, but on that, Donovan Strauss getting his way back up through the field. You also have Zach Novak now back inside the top. While these guys up front and mains continue to go single file, they're really not building up that gap outside the top 10 that we saw earlier, and that could bring guys like Noah, Alfredo, Strauss back into this battle before it's all said and done with 30 to go.
Look at the big run by the cars on the outside. In fact, we'll go 3 wide down the back straightaway. Novak is just trying to hold and maintain position. He goes down to the very inside line. You can see how they scatter behind, but he is alongside the number 9 machine. Conrath to the outside. There is the number 9 car. Didn't really have the speed off the corner, but again, that draft pulls the number 9 alongside Novak. Now he gets the advantage back into 1. Funny how there were like 3 times there on the front straightaway where the momentum shifted between those two drivers as they were fighting to get the draft off of the cars in front, and Novak really pushing up the hill that time, Jesse, not giving a ton of room to Conrath to work with, but the 9 car keeps his foot in it, and Conrath not afraid to go toe-to-toe with one of the best.
It's crazy to see just how everything worked itself out in the longer part of that green run that we had earlier. We saw all these different packs break off. We had like the top 10, the 10 through 20th. They had their own little groups and they were running. Now we're seeing almost everyone together. So many people. Now they're falling in line. People aren't really spreading out as much because now they're worried about, okay, now that I've gotten through a lot of the chaos earlier, I'm closer to the end now. I probably want to be a little bit smarter so I can actually get to the end and try to win this race. So now you can see people falling in line. We'll see how aggressive they start getting once we start falling under 20 laps to go.
Inside of the final 30, closing on the final 20. You feel like time is running out for drivers who may find themselves out of the top 10 or out of the top 15. If you want to be in the conversation, you need to take that next step. And look at Devin George, for example. When we looked at him earlier in the race, he was cracking a smile. He was having a good time. Well, now that he's up to P11 and close, he knows he's in this thing. That smile's gone. He is locked in 110%. He'll go trying to hold off Chance Manning, who has put the Simbox number 54 Chevrolet to his inside. They fight for 11th and 12th, and Devin doing a good job knowing the top side's the place to be. He successfully defends that run and maintains the positioning. Up front, though, Parker Retzlaff has settled into control of this race. This time by 26 to go.
And you really tell the eyes of George are looking in his virtual mirror, looking in his virtual side windshield. I'm sure that Jesse probably knows you get into this mode. We're coming to 25 laps to go. You're outside the top. You can see the leader, the intensity starts to rise. But as the intensity is rising, this is probably the most composed that we've seen this front pack all night long. When is that going to go into shambles?
I say give it to about 10 laps to go. Once we hit 10 laps to go, it's all going to shambles. All bit of strategy is out, just out the door. That's it. They're just fighting for it from there. And someone's going to go home with $4,000. And everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. They are going to do whatever it takes to get there. There are no more friends after. once we dwindle down to the last few laps, there will be no more friends. No more alliances. They're just going to battle it out. And it's going to get pretty interesting to watch.
We're inside of the final 25 from Fontana. Parker Retzlaff looking for the win in this EPM Omega Cup Winter Bowl. Stick with us on Podium. The finish is coming up next.
Do you struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out, someone just to give the Gap sauce? Well, you should check out the Gapum app.
Gapum is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events.
And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gapum Postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gapum app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack.
Gapum is a one-stop shop for the car world.
Looks like I just got a match on the Gapum app. Time to serve someone some Gapple beans.
Ready, set, Gapum.
Back live in Fontana, and a caution with 22 laps to go has just added that much more drama into the end of this one. You were watching some of the battling inside of the top 10 there on a podium side by side, and it fell apart in turn number 2. We'll take a look at this one, but I think it's going to be 3 wide gone awry with the 21 car and the 32. Well, let's find out. Racing down the back straightaway. It's all going to condense on right there. Almost looked like the 9 may have given a shot to the 21. And I think when Conrath got into Cameron Jesse, it turned him into Cody Smith. And those were 3 guys in the top 10 with a great chance to win this race now on the hook.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit of awareness. The awareness was lost right there, and they didn't know exactly that situational awareness that you need on the track wasn't there, and then all of a sudden you have wrecks, multiple wrecks, and it causes this chain reaction that starts just finding its way back through the rest of the field. And then even after that, people are spun out, sitting on the track. Drivers still speeding through, not really caring about the yellow flag. And next, they're almost spinning out themselves too, just trying to avoid cars sitting on track. So a lot of stuff that could be avoided with just a little bit of situational awareness.
Yeah, a lot of drivers just were so late onto the scene, and you saw with the onboard there with the 24 just could not see what was happening up the road, and because of that, didn't have enough time to react. Here's the onboard look with Bergoli racing off of turn number 2. You can see the cars up the road fighting, and again, at this point, yellow flag is out. You can see cars slowing down, cars spread all over the road, and just a little late on the decision making there.
Barely.
He kept it out of the fence. Didn't touch it. Clean. He's fine. You don't got to change the front clip on the next-gen car. He survives, but might need to change the virtual fire suit. What this does, though, Devin, everybody is back down to the pit lane. Almost everybody, I should say. 4 drivers staying out. Retzlaff, Maines, Agurchik, and Knupp do not pit. Everybody else, though, is in for service.
Yeah, a lot of drivers come into pit road. Some stay out. Justin Prince is on pit road. What are you hearing from everyone?
Well, Garrett Maines before that stop felt like it was going to be a mixed bag on this call in regards to the tire fall off as well as how this race has been faring out when it comes to working together. Several drivers have emphasized, including Maines, that you need to be able to work together to try and get some runs. That's where some of the strategy calls for drivers like Alfredo, Strauss, and company have come into play, where it was felt from their crew chief tonight, who is controlling those calls, Logan Sheets, that they all had to come in together to be able to work together to make it through the pack. One of the drivers, though, who has made it up towards the front, in front of drivers like Zach Novak, a couple cars up, in fact. How about Luke Knupp joining the fray? He got involved in trouble during the last run in the midst of the second pack. And he's somebody, keep in mind, that is no more so for racing road races on the iRacing service. He looked to try and qualify well entering tonight, get track position, stay out of trouble, and be up in the front for these last few laps. He's now in that situation right now. He learned a lot from the driver who's leading the field at the moment, Parker Retzlaff, to be able to prepare for this situation.
And he's as well a setup builder, so he knows a lot of the intricacies of these cars. But you're right, he does not race these Cup cars. We mentioned that earlier. He's an off-road racer. He's an e-short course driver in the Pro 4 and Pro 2 trucks here on iRacing. He's in 4th. Ahead of a Coke Series champion and Zach Novak in 4th. I mean, there is all kinds of backgrounds represented in the drivers up front. The restart will be with 18 laps to go. The bank is open. It's time. $5,000 on the line, 4,000 of which will go to the race winner. But remember, there is varying strategy on the tires and the fuel. Retzlaff in 1st and Knupp in 3rd are on 25 lap old tires. Garrett Maines, 22 laps old. Brandon Agerchich, 19 laps old. Everybody else from row 3 on back, 4 fresh Goodyear tires. Let's see if that's the difference maker in this one. Pace car down and in. Retzlaff in control for the inside of the front row. He goes early. Green flag flies. 18 laps to go in Fontana.
Great jump, and Retzlaff immediately goes up to that high side. Already see the inside lane is diminishing quickly. Going to be momentum that outside.
And look at the 3 wide. Zach Novak, contact there with LaPrade. The 35 gets into Novak. He goes to the inside for evasive action. He saves it. We stay green. It is no holds bar racing. Jesse at the front.
They are getting wild, and I knew it was going to happen once we got to under 20 laps to go. We're 18 to go now. They're fighting their battle, and it gets slow, and he ends up in the wall. And it's a massive wreck happening, oh my goodness, coming out of turn 4. And who just got knocked out? He's angry.
He can't believe it. And I think that's at least the third or fourth time that we have seen cars on cold, fresh tires break loose in that exact same spot of the racetrack. You can see it there. Novak and Derek Fulton were both sideways, and I'm not going to put any of that on Donovan Strauss. Strauss lifted and tried his very best to stay off of Novak, but Novak just couldn't save that car. And here's Strauss's perspective. You're going to see both the 8 and the 90 get loose. He's off the gas. I mean, he's trying to stay off of him, but eventually got into him. Somehow Briar LaPrade goes spinning as well. He nearly wrecked on the back straightaway the lap before. He also just got loose and completely self-spun, Devin. And I can't remember the last time I saw so many pro-level drivers self-spinning it.
Yeah, just trying to get it lowered down. Might have been something with the brakes, but that 35 car goes around all on its own. That is just a frustrating feeling to know that you might have been in that position. Now he's back in the 19th spot. We'll see what he can do moving forward. We'll go back green with less than 15 to go. Not a lot of time left for so many of these drivers.
We talk about comparing these cars to the real-life next-gen cars, and Justin, drivers talking about how when it gets sideways like that, it's just so tricky to catch it, and you've got some input based on what the drivers are saying on the radio.
Yeah, that was Zach Novak specifically giving that feedback in regards to what just happened with several drivers getting really loose when it comes to its run. But Anthony Alfredo had mentioned in feedback to that is realistic in regards to how the tires are with the real-world next-gen car now and how they are modeled in turn with the way the tires are. So it is going to be difficult for some drivers potentially to try and hold on to that circumstance from this point on forward. It's also been talked about, though, keep in mind that in their opinions in that respective camp, they feel like while the drivers who stayed out may be in a comfortable spot with the heat cycle short run, with the fresher tires, once they get up to temperature, that's when there's a chance drivers can go on forward. In other words, for some of these competitors who have pit for tires over the past couple cautions, they need a bit of a run to be able to get themselves forward progress.
So this opens up the door again with more of the heavy hitters who have led lots of laps in this race making mistakes. You got a Luke Knupp in third, who has led no laps. A Brandon Agercic in fifth, who has led no laps. Chance Manning, he's led none. He's ninth. Same with Brad Patton, who only has 1 lap led. He's down in the number 9 position. So there's so many drivers who are just getting their first crack and racing up front. We checked in with Devin George a little bit ago. His night has gone backwards, was on the cusp of a top 10 position, but was damaged in that last incident. His Exalted number 44 looks fine. That's because he got the quick repair on it, so he'll be all right to try to race his way back through the field, but at quite a cost. And you just have to think, eventually they're going to get enough laps in, Jesse, where it's not going to be a problem, but I don't see any reason why these guys don't have to tiptoe it this next restart in 3 and 4. And funny enough that it always seems to happen at that end of the racetrack specifically.
Yeah, the reason why it happens coming out of 3 and 4 is because both corners, they're always going to be different. When people look at NASCAR tracks, and a lot of people think, we don't know NASCAR, that they're all circles. Well, they're definitely not circles. And then the people who know NASCAR a little bit more, they just think that, hey, you know, it's kind of like an egg shape, this and that, which it actually is a little bit more similar to an egg shape than anything than like a normal oval, I would say. Each corner is very different. The exit on each corner causes people to do certain things. Some people will end up thinking that, hey, coming out of 2 and coming out of 4 is just the same things. I can just do the same stuff each time when I'm coming out, and that's just not correct. Coming out of turn 4 on a lot of these tracks, especially like this one, you are going to feel a little bit more loose than normal. That's just the nature of the beast, and some people, you know, get themselves into trouble and they end up spinning like this. That's all you keep on seeing people spin, coming out of 4 and not 2.
Couple drivers dive to the pit lane as we take the green flag. 14 laps to go here tonight in Fontana. $4,000 at a checkered flag in the Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl is on the line. Red slap clear for the lead. Contact for second. It's Garrett Maines who gets moved up the hill. He'll keep his foot in the gas. 3 wide down the back straightaway.
Donovan Stroud shot the hole down the inside lane. He moves up to P2, and right behind him, you see that sim seats number 15, Anthony Alfredo, following him along. Contact right behind them. Knupp in the wall. More drivers getting loose.
And a caution for a spin behind. Who is it? Into the outside wall. Tough to see with the sheet metal missing. It is Jason Maines in the number 5 car for Elliott Sadler eSports, who is the cause of the yellow. So it does not come from the cars at the very front, but watch this shunt, because Maines is just minding his business on the outside, and the contact's going to come from below right there. And the 21 machine, I think it is, gets hip checked to 24, I should say. That was Luke Knupp, who just gets sent up into him. And there was nothing that Jason Maines could have done. Watch his perspective. It's the 77 machine of Knupp. Low. There's going to be the touch right there. Zero chance for him to react and avoid that one, Jesse.
That is a tough one for sure. I've been in that position in real life. I've been in that position on the sim. Yeah, there's nothing he could have done. I mean, he was driving his own race. He was trying to stay away from people, give people some room. But at the end of the day, you can't control what everyone is doing on a track. Something else might happen, and they end up inside of you, hitting you, turning you into the wall, and it could pretty much ruin your day, if not end your day.
So another caution to flag gives drivers an opportunity to get some damage repaired. Parker Retzlaff has to defend for that many less laps. He'll pace, close it in on the final 10 laps from Fontana. You're watching the eRacing Association Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl on Podium eSports.
It means a lot to have this opportunity to race full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
We're reaching the community that needs to be transformed in terms of unlocking their mental potential with this opportunity with EPM.
The American gift is right here. It's embodied in this opportunity. It's embodied in all of us. It's not a dream, it's an opportunity. This is America, and everything is possible.
I'm just super happy and proud to be part of this whole team and this organization and everything we're going to do from here on out.
When you put that combination of talent, hard work, and opportunity together, it lends itself to be something great. And I look forward to seeing what it matures to.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody out there. Very grateful that we get to do this, we get to have fun, and more importantly, that we're all going to make a difference together. Thank you so much.
Do you struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out, someone just to give the Gap sauce? Well, you should check out the Gapum app.
Gapum is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events.
And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gapum Postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gapum app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack.
Gapum is a one-stop shop for the car world.
Looks like I just got a match on the Gapum app. Time to serve someone some Gapple beans.
Ready, set, Gapum.
Well, back live in Fontana, California. Tonight's race about to reach its crescendo. The pace car going to be in this time. Only 10 laps left to go in this Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl. Happy that you're with us here on Podium eSports. Jesse Wuji, Devin Henry, myself, Evan Pasoko upstairs with Justin Prince on the pit lane, racing for 5 $1,000. Green flag flies, 10 laps to go, and Retzlaff again, Devin, so good on the jump.
Justin Prince was reporting that Alfredo and Strauss want to work together. Strauss immediately dived down to the inside in front of Alfredo, but then bounced back up, and now Garrett Conrath separates them. Retzlaff, Strauss, and Conrath looking to pull away. Alfredo has something to say about it, though, as here comes a pass for the lead.
He's on the inside. Retzlaff, Strauss for the lead. Strauss almost clear, but you could see when he got to the clean air, the 42 was able to stay on his side. Now Strauss in a tricky spot because the bottom has not been the place to be, and he dives down. He has to pull down, and Parker Retzlaff will go back to the race lead, and now Conrath sits in second.
Wow. Wow. Things are getting heated up with 9 to go. People are getting crazy. They're getting wild. No more friends. No more new friends. That's it. We're going for it.
And now what does the number 9 machine do? Conrath is pushing the 7 car, Retzlaff, the 42, I should say, Toyota, down and into the corner. In third is Anthony Alfredo. He has been very quiet after leading 6 laps earlier in this race. Chance Manning's in fourth. Brad Patton there in fifth as well. You got LaPrade, Baker, Kerwin Anderson, and Maines inside of the top 10. Now 8 laps to go from Fontana. Still no move from Conrath, seemingly trying to help out Retzlaff here and defend 1-2.
Alfredo using this higher line. Strauss got the black flag for changing lanes, and now another yellow flag. We will restack them once more.
And I believe it's Dean Gagliano towards the rear of the field. The number 30 machine in 15th is that slow rolling car. Used to be a Chevrolet, I think. Can't tell because the front clip's gone, and just a miscommunication. Gagliano and Kyle Wisner. That's the 42 machine going to the outside. There's room, and it just kind of never gave him the room, Jesse. And an interesting incident. We talked about the draft, and I think it was just as simple as he really wanted to get to the top to stay in the draft and kind of squeezed the 42 up there as all the cars were going high. He tried to fit in a spot that really wasn't there.
Yeah, I think he was thinking that the 42 would be a little bit higher, but it's, man, that's a tough one right there because it could go really any way. I mean, it could have been his fault, it could have been the other guy's fault. That definitely is a tough one, but that's what happens at tracks like this. You just got to, once again, have some really good situational awareness. You got to feel that car. You got to know where they're at, hear that motor, understand who you're racing against and who you're racing around. Everyone's going to be different. Every competitor wants something different on the track as far as track position. So you really got to understand who you're racing around. And that's just a tough one right there. I don't know if I could really blame anyone on what happened right there.
It's just one of those racing deals that happens when you get everybody stacked up. And, we talk about the race lead going to Parker Retzlaff, and that's because we saw the penalty and didn't have the heads up that it was coming there, in the battle for the race lead. But turns out that it was a lane change violation and a penalty, therefore, to the driver of the number 37 machine, Donovan Strauss. So I believe that was the restart going from lap 90 to 91. You cannot change lanes before the start-finish line, Devin. That is a pretty universal rule. And I believe the 37 car, when they were coming to the green flag, made a move low and then corrected it there. You saw he crossed the line in the correct position. But here we go. Let's wind the tape back and let's watch the 37.
Yeah, I mentioned right before that he wanted to work together with the 5 of Alfredo, but ducked that move too soon. Tried to get back up and say no harm, no foul, but you can see, he goes fully in front of Alfredo there.
That's all the way down, and even though he tried to touch up and go back to the outside and reset, that is an illegal lane change on the restart right there, and that is why Strauss had to pull down from the battle for the race lead with a drive-through penalty. Strauss has gone to the garage. His night is done. We talk about all the money on the line, Jesse. We've talked about how the cool thing about these events is, anybody on the iRacing service can sign up for an ERA race and race against, the Coke Series guys like Novak and Baines and Salas and, a driver who's competed in the NASCAR Cup Series Speedways at Anthony Alfredo. For those tuning in at home and is thinking, I'd like to be in one of these EPM Omega Cup Series races at some point, or even just some of the other events and races that you guys put on with the eRacing Association, where can they go to find out more information?
It's really easy to become an ERA member. To become an ERA member, you can head to eragaming.gg. That's eragaming.gg. You can sign up to become a member. You can pay for the monthly or the annual. And once you're a member, you don't have to do anything else. We'll send out little RSVP links right before the events just to get a head count on who's going to actually compete in the event. Not every ERA member competes in every single event because everyone has different schedules, different things that's going on in their family, their work life, you name it. So some people will compete in every event throughout the year. Some will compete in just one or two. But if you just head to our website, you can become an ERA member. And then from there, you're entered into all of the races. You don't have to pay any additional fees per race. You're just already in. It's a great opportunity to compete against some really good drivers, get some great broadcast time, get seen by a lot of viewers, and also compete for cash prizes. We don't just give out just products or anything like that. We give out real hard cash that you can use for whatever you want. So a great way to compete in sim racing and make it a little bit of a profession for you if you're really good.
Yeah, if you're good at it. I know that ERA has given away more than $30,000 to date. Hop on the sim, get you some of that. Maybe we'll see you come the Spring Bowl in 2022. It gets serious right here and right now, though. $5,000 is on the line, and we are coming up to a 4-lap-to-go restart. Retzlaff in control. He's on the inside of the front row with Conrath to his outside. Alfredo, Manning, and Patton inside of the top 5. LaPrade, Baker, Anderson, Maines, and Kerwin through the top 10. Pace car down to pit road. Retzlaff searching for a payday, takes the green flag.
$4,000 to win this race. Retzlaff picked up a big old jump there. Don't think Alfredo has enough on that inside lane. Conrath on the outside pulls right up on the rear bumper of Retzlaff, but Alfredo's still there looking for P2.
He's still challenging on the inside line. Is he clear to the top? Yes, he is. Doesn't pull up. Now he does. He finds a spot in line. Everybody desperately fighting to stay in the draft. Manning's going to lose a lot of spots down the back straightaway as Briar LaPrade goes to 4th. Maines, Anderson, other drivers trying to work their way through the field and catch on up. You're on board with Manning in P5. 3 laps to go this time. Here comes Anthony Alfredo, Jesse.
There's so many battles going on. I love what I am seeing on the screen right now. Everyone is fighting, everyone's battling, and everybody has a shot right now to make it up forward and try to win this race. It's not like it's just one person's race to win. Everyone has a shot right now. What moves are going to be made? Will they be able to hold it together? We got 3 laps to go. This is getting way too exciting.
LaPrade stuck on the bottom. Alfredo gets to the lead, but for how long? Retzlaff crosses back over to the inside. He is going to fight back. 3 wide for the race lead as Garrett Conrath goes to the inside. 2 laps to go in Fontana. Retzlaff wants some draft. They're spinning.
And he gets turned.
Is it LaPrade who's down it in the grass?
Wow.
It looks like we stay green. White flag next time if it does.
And they're still going. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. Well, that's because it didn't really inhibit any of the drivers. Just because he got spun doesn't mean it's an automatic yellow. We still got 2 to go. Who's going to make it to the end? Will somebody else get turned? We'll find out next.
Clean track, let him go. Conrath to the inside of Alfredo for the race lead. It's Retzlaff under Manning for 3rd, Devin. White flag if they can get there.
Oh, Retzlaff gets wicked loose. He gets turned around into the infield grass. Yellow
people
flag,
spinning.
Green, white checkered.
They do not get to the white flag, and this race will have overtime. And they were giving it 110%, Jesse. It all started with Retzlaff, who just gave it a little bit too much. You'll see it. The 3rd car in line, there he is. He's going to get by Manning. He gets 3rd in line, and as he gets off the corner, the car's just going to start to slide. He's pushing it very hard to try to find that opening, and it starts to break sideways, and then when he tries to catch that race car, it basically just comes to a stop in front of Manning. Manning gets into him. He's down into the barrels, and a handful of other cars are collected as well, including Igercic, and I think maybe Baker as well.
This changes everything. Now we have some new people moving up forward who maybe would have thought that, you know what, I might just be settling for a 5th or 6th place finish. Now they're moving up forward a little bit more with now these wrecks. This changes everything. Now you have a new set of drivers who are going to be battling for the win, who now have a new set of confidence and feel like, you know what, I have a clean shot now to actually get this $4,000 and win this race. Oh, man, it's about to get pretty crazy here on these last couple laps.
We talked about unlimited tires available earlier tonight. Devin, as we keep looking at some of the different perspectives, this one on board with George in the 40 car from further back, and my mind immediately thought, get tires, right? But for how bad those tires have been, like driving on ice when they're fresh for a 2-lap shootout, I don't know if that's the call, and only 5 drivers pit. Edwards, Retzlaff, Manning, Igercic, and Ramon all down pit road, so a majority of the cars actually opt to stay out and maintain their track position.
Well, let's put it this way. There are only 16 cars on the lead lap. If 5 went down pit road, that means you're starting between 11th and 16th. Now, you did see a few cars like Casey Kerwin, Briar LaPrade, how they just kind of disappeared. They reached their incident limit. Not only does that mean they are no longer in the race, it also means that guys like Brad Payton, Matthew Baker, Kane Anderson, Nolan Dawson, Devin George, they don't have to worry about those pros coming from the back. They're no longer in the race at all. 16 cars on the lead lap, but that tells me we have a maximum of 3 attempts at a green-white checkered. I think 16 guys have a chance to win this race. And you see the sweat dripping right now for Matthew Baker. He's got a grin on his face. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, those Coke Series guys, Jesse, they're used to racing for $100,000, right? I mean, not that you can get that used to it, but for a guy like him to be up and in this position against that kind of talent, I gotta wonder if the pressure's gonna get to him.
The pressure is definitely on him for sure, but will it get to him? We'll find out. It's funny because you watch these drivers and, you know, he's thumbing his hands and fingers through his hair because honestly, he probably is sweating. Driving on a sim is a little bit physical. Depending on the room temperature in your house, if you don't have your room set at probably under 70 degrees or so, on a race like this where it's 100 laps, you will start sweating. I have come off the sim on 80, 90, 100 lap races, a little bit more. I've come off the sim drenched in sweat and I've had to change clothes. It's just how it is. It's difficult. It's tough. It's stressful. You're working that wheel, and that wheel, depending on how much force feedback is giving you, you are really fighting it. It feels like real life. So, yeah, these folks are getting a little bit physical on the sim, and a lot of this stuff could play into some of their focus.
We've seen 3 different winners in the history of the ERA Omega Cup. It was Parker Retzlaff, winner at Nashville in the inaugural Winter Bowl. Mike Sturgill won the Spring Bowl at Daytona, and Vicente Salas has won the last 2 at both COTA and Bristol. Do we see another first-time winner in the Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup tonight in the Winter Bowl? The lights are out on top of the iRacing official pace car in this time to give us attempt number 1 at a green-white checker finish. Conrath choosing the inside of the front row. The number-9 machine in control for this restart. They got to get to the white for this attempt to count. Green flag in the air. 2 laps to go.
Great jump from Conrath, but can he keep Anthony Alfredo behind? He had all the momentum the last time we went green. Oh, watch out. That 5 car is going to be hungry.
Trying to gain position there. You got 4th position. Caden Anderson picking up spots, sliding to the outside, but Baker maintaining 5th, blocked off by that move by Anderson. Up front, Conrath dropping to the inside, throwing blocks on Brad Patton, who's up to a race side, the number 2 spot. This time at a 4, they gotta get there, Jesse. Your leaders, though, single file for a moment.
They are battling it out, 2 to go. What is going to happen? The white flag is out. They are continuing to fight for it. They're getting in line, but somebody's going to make a move, and they got to make a move right now. Who's going to take this win? Who's going to make this $4,000? We'll find out next. This is the final lap
Oh, and Patton went low, but here comes Alfredo to the inside. 3 wide for the race lead on the final lap, but Garrett Conrath finds himself clear. Caden Anderson to second. Here comes Baker in third. Last time in 3 and 4, can Garrett Conrath hang on? A bobble by Anderson. Baker's not close enough, and Garrett Conrath will race to a $4,000 payday, winning the Winter Bowl in Fontana.
Wow. Oh my goodness. What a race and what a finale. What an ending. These folks really drove their hearts out here at our ERA Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Series Winter Bowl. Final race of 2021, and it was definitely one to watch. This is great.
What a way to end the 2021 calendar for the eRacing Association. And Devin, I'll tell you what, I didn't think Conrath was going to be able to hold him off, but he was able to defend on several different challenges. And in that last corner, Anderson just gave it 110%, got a little bit loose, and Conrath was able to use the track position on the green-white checker.
And I'm going to go even further back than that, because not only was that executed as well as it could have been to win this race, but Conrath has been around the top 12, I'd say, the entire race. He has arguably been the most consistent driver tonight, and it pays off in a big way when it mattered the most.
Celebrating on the front straightaway as tonight's race winner. When we come back, we'll talk with him. Garrett Conrath is the 2021 Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl champion. We'll talk with the driver of the number 9 car next on Podium.
It means a lot to have this opportunity to race full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
We're reaching the community that needs to be transformed in terms of unlocking their mental potential with this opportunity with EPM.
The American gift is right here. It's embodied in this opportunity. It's embodied in all of us. It's not a dream. It's an opportunity. This is America, and everything is possible.
I'm just super happy and proud to be part of this whole team and this organization and everything we're going to do from here on out.
When you put that combination of talent, hard work, and opportunity together, it lends itself to be something great. And I look forward to seeing what it matures to.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody out there. Very grateful that we get to do this, we get to have fun, and more importantly, that we're all going to make a difference together. Thank you so much.
And back live from the virtual Auto Club Speedway, where things have settled after a firecracker of a finish to tonight's race, where the victor is Garrett Conrath. He takes home $4,000 in the race win in tonight's eRacing Association Equity Prime Mortgage Omega Cup Winter Bowl here on Podium. We'll take a look through at tonight's EPM full race results. Conrath gets the $4,000 prize, while Baker, Anderson, Patton, and Alfredo finish in the money inside of the top 5. Devin George comes home 6th tonight ahead of Nolan Dawson in 7th. Parker Retzlaff is 8th. Guillaume Hesno is in 9th. And Kyle Weisner, your top 10.
Trent Cusack brings it home in 11th, wearing the famous number, part now of Jesse Wuji Racing. Christopher Reagan in 12th. Gene Galino in 13th. Chance Manning finishes in 14th. Brandon Erjic brings it home in 15th. Austin Edwards in P16, Corey Range in 17th, Aaron Ramon in 18th, Casey Kerwin, Briar LaPrade round out the top 20.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers unable to make it to the end after being involved in incidents earlier. Big names: Garrett Maines, Donovan Strauss, 21 and 22, ahead of Dean Webb, Derek Fulton, and Jason Baines, the top 25. Luke Cadup had a shot to win this race late. He ends up 26th, ahead of Cody Smith, 27th. Even Zach Novak way down in 28th, ahead of Kyle Vallejos and Paul Bergoli, your top 30.
Jason Cameron in P31, Bryce Colbert, Alex Thurber, Vicente Salas, Chris Papa rounds out the top 35. Douglas Newbigin in 36. P37 to Michael Richardson. Thomas Merzick in P38. Chase Pierce, Michael Gallagher round out our 40-car field here tonight.
So look top to bottom at your full race results presented by our friends at Equity Prime Mortgage, and the driver who topped the charts tonight is your race winner, Garrett Conrath, who is trackside now with Jesse.
Mr. Garrett, how are you feeling about tonight's race? I mean, you put on a really great show. You were able to stay smart, make it to the finish. What does it feel to know that you just won $4,000 in our ERA tournament?
Yeah, I'm totally speechless right now. I don't even know what to say. I didn't think I'd be here at this point and whatever. And man, it's just amazing.
That's awesome. I'm definitely seeing the energy. I mean, this is it's exciting. It's exciting times. I mean, did you ever think that you'd have an opportunity to race in a sim racing tournament, a video game, and win this kind of money?
Yeah, I've been on this sim since I think 2012, and this kind of money is just like was above my head at that time. Like you'd never think it'd get there, and what the Coke Series is doing now in this, and can't thank you guys enough for putting this on because it's just an awesome deal to race for this.
Well, thank you so much for being an ERA member and racing in this event. It was great seeing all the great competitors here just drive their butts off all night long. I mean, I know it was definitely difficult to hold on to these cars, but you put on a great show. Big congrats to you for winning your first ERA Omega Cup event. And man, you did a great job. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. The car was definitely a handful of times, but got used to it a little bit at the end there, and was trying to work with Parker Retzlaff at the end, but we got split up because of just how the racing was going there at the end, but happy to do it.
Most definitely. Got any sponsors you want to thank?
I honestly don't have any sponsors, just thanking Nexus eSports for all the support they've had on me the past couple of years, and having the road to pro side hasn't gone so well for me, but can't thank them enough for that.
You did an excellent job. Thanks for running our event, and we enjoyed watching you win this one.
Thanks so much.
The chat with your race winner tonight as Garrett Conrath walks away with the big check. Matthew Baker comes home in second. Matthew, congratulations. You're in the money, but I can only help but think you might be wondering what could have been. You guys were in position and had a chance on the green-white checker.
Yeah, I mean, driving 32nd to second is something in itself, so I'm happy to just get a top five, honestly. Never thought I'd be in this position racing for $4,000 and getting so close. I was going to try and sit in at a 3 and 4, but I knew if I did that, I was going to have to go to the apron and make a video game move, so decided to just stay there and take the home P2. Happy for it, too.
We saw a lot of different things over the course of this race, right? I mean, we saw long runs, we saw some short runs. What was it like trying to learn these cars? I mean, even, the drivers that have competed at the top levels of NASCAR struggled at points, especially on cold tires. So what were some of the keys that you figured out over this race to dial that car in and put yourself in position at the end, ending up, as you mentioned, plus 30?
Just being patient, honestly, especially on the first 3 laps, those tires, real cold tires. If you got fresh tires, you weren't going to go anywhere without sliding all over the track, and just avoiding the wrecks and looking out for the big ones.
Tell us about your experience being an ERA member, being able to compete at an event like this. And I know you would have liked more than second, but you still walk away with $500 out of a sim race, and I know that's got to feel pretty good.
Oh, it's awesome. I never thought, 3 of my Navy buddies and I, we started racing, doing this just for fun. And I found ERA last year, right around Daytona time. Got into the main event, but didn't qualify for it. So that was disappointing. But I mean, just to qualify for this and have a chance to go to second place, just thank you to you guys for putting on the broadcast. And thank you to Jesse for giving us this opportunity, coming from all walks of life, to do this. It's awesome.
Appreciate you being a part of this one. Congratulations on the solid result, Matthew. Appreciate your service. I know that that's a good connection that you and Jesse have as well, and hope to see you down the road at more of these Omega Cup races.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Your second place finisher tonight from Fontana, Matthew Baker, comes home as the runner-up finisher, and Devin, third place tonight goes to Caden Anderson, who gave it everything there in turn 4 in the last lap.
Everything he could, but regardless, he takes home cold hard cash, $250. But Caden, take me through that green-white checkered. What was going through your mind when you made the moves to get up onto the podium and you had a chance to go get that win?
Yeah, my thought process was that all night the outside lane was the way to go. So I decided to jump to the outside and push Garrett there out front and try to get to his outside, and just got a little loose at the end.
When you look at how this night's been hectic for a lot of drivers, how did you keep this car clean? Keep it up here towards the front of the pack, qualify top 10, finish on the podium.
Honestly, I don't know how I made it through all the carnage tonight. There was a few wrecks there where I skated through, so just a lot of luck, I guess, and just avoidance.
And $250 tonight for finishing on the podium. What does it mean to you to be able to take home that kind of payday and be part of this group and run for that kind of cash?
Yeah, taking $250 home on iRacing is pretty cool. So I wish it was a couple more spots better, but we'll take it home and be okay with it.
Caden, congratulations. Big payday. Great show today. Congratulations on the third place finish.
Thank you.
Well, that is 1, 2, and 3. A big thanks to Garrett Conrath, Matthew Baker, and Caden Anderson for joining us here post-race to talk. And all those drivers walking away with some money after another exciting EPM Omega Cup race. And, of course, we talk about a full circle moment. Jesse, we'll talk about the race again in a minute. But, again, this is it for 2021. 4 great races here on Podium. Enjoyed all of them. And I know we just ended one, literally, but not too late to start thinking, hey, if I want to be in the Spring Bowl, I should sign up. And as you mentioned earlier, drivers have the opportunity to get involved in the ERA if they want.
Yeah, drivers right now, they can get signed up and start getting ready for our Spring Bowl. Everyone knows exactly what track we're going to be racing for the Spring Bowl. It's going to be Daytona. It's going to be pack racing. Everyone's going to be following in line. They're going to have some different strategies. A lot of stuff is going to be going on. Different teams racing with each other, different teams lining up, a lot of different stuff going on. But right now, you can go on to our website. You can sign up. You don't have to wait until a few days before the event. You can sign up right now and become an ERA member. Just head to eragaming.gg. Sign up, become a member, start practicing for all the events that we're going to have in 2022. We'll be releasing our schedule pretty soon, so you can keep checking our website, and you'll see it eventually on there for our schedule. And become a member, come compete, have some fun, and see if you can win some prize money. But definitely want to give a huge thanks to our sponsors for this event. EPM, Equity Prime Mortgage, thank you so much for being our primary sponsor for these events. Gap'em, Notable Live, Red List, all the folks who have been on board this year to help. And then Podium eSports for just doing an amazing job with the broadcast all year long. It's been absolutely incredible having these events and just seeing these drivers go out there, compete for prize money, win it. And it just makes such a big difference, especially during Christmas time.
Well, Jesse, I want to thank you as well for being a part of this, right, and giving us your insight from all of your real-world driving experience as well, and being a part of bringing the ERA to us. And, Devin, what a wild race. We talked off at the top, right? Would the limited time in this car maybe aid some of those underdog drivers? It absolutely did. Everybody was able to be in the conversation. Did the Coke guys, did the Cup Series driver, Anthony Alfredo, right? Were they in the conversation all night? Absolutely. But in the end, everybody had a fair shot at it. And how about Garrett Conrath being the guy who goes to victory lane?
And he had that incredible finish there at the end. And a lot of guys had a chance to make that last move, but it's came down to a lot of what did you learn today during that race to bring home that $4,000 paycheck. And you saw a guy like Garrett Conrath run well all night long, run clean all night long, and that made the big difference in the end.
And of course, looking forward to you joining us for what is next here on Podium Esports. Plenty of live sim racing action coming to you in the next couple of days. Of course, you can find all of that here at twitch.tv/podium2 or twitch.tv/podium esports, and to make sure you don't miss out on any of the action. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight from Fontana. On behalf of Matt Casto, Sean Yoder, and the entire E-Racing Association team, for DJ Lyon, William Hale, and Brandon Davis at Race Control, for Cisco Scarmuza, John Theodore, and everyone on our team here at Podium Esports, and for your broadcast team tonight. For our producer Ryan Bauer, for Justin Prince on Pit Road, for Jesse Awuji, Devin Henry, and myself, Evan Pasoko, want to thank you for tuning in, and congratulations to Garrett Conrath, who's the 2021 EPM Omega Cup Winter Bowl champion. We'll catch you next time when the E-Racing Association returns exclusively to Podium Esports.
We have made the decision that me and the all-time leading rusher of professional football, Emmitt Smith, will be partnering up on a joint venture to create an opportunity-generating system in the form of a race team in NASCAR for 2022. Right now, currently at the national levels of NASCAR, there are only 2 African Americans racing in the top 3 series. But the only way to continue to bring more diversity to NASCAR, whether it is diversity by race, religion, gender, or whatever it will be, action must be taken. As a driver, you can only do so much, but with ownership, the sky is the limit. Growing up watching racing, I didn't see many people who looked like me in the sport. But now that I've had the opportunity to be educated at the United States Naval Academy, serve in the military for this amazing country, deploy around the world, and now while still serving, have the opportunity to chase my dreams racing in NASCAR, we are both going to use our large platforms to bring more opportunity to the sport for those who may have not thought that they had a chance. We are here for all those who thought they couldn't, and we are here to bring hope to those who believe they can. Creating that path is something that we've been thinking about for the last few years. We're trying to figure out, how do we actually make this happen? And the idea we came up with was, why don't we start our own race team? And the goal of this race team isn't for me to just go drive and go find a way to win races and eventually win a championship or something like that and just focus on me. That's not what it's about. It's about going out there and giving hope to others who are coming, right? And actually creating a path, creating an opportunity system that continues year after year to create opportunities for people who maybe have not ever had that chance and never thought that they were ever going to have that chance.
Mm-hmm. Your background, I know where your heart is at. I know where your passion and where your drive and your determination comes from. And it's that I absolutely love and appreciate, because I feel similar to you, even though we come from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different eras, or my era is a little bit farther than yours, but we come from similar places. And that part makes me proud to be a partner with you.
So, getting this team going together, I'm pretty pumped about it. It's an opportunity to create, like we've been talking about, this system that continues to create opportunities for people, whether minorities, veterans, you name it, whatever it is. But we can make it happen, because, when you have someone like you who's been there and done that, we follow your lead.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, I do have some things, but here's the beautiful thing about this relationship that I'm appreciate is the youth, which is beautiful. But most importantly, I'm proud of you because you're doing something. You're fighting the good fight. You're fighting the good fight and the right fight. and you're competing in an area that not many of us have had the opportunity to compete in, which also says you are a trailblazer. You know, when I look at myself and I look at what I've been able to accomplish, in a lot of ways, I was a trailblazer too. Didn't realize it in the process of doing it. And sometimes we don't realize it because we're in the middle of doing it. You're on your way. And with the right type of sponsorships around you and the right support around you, you can. There's no question whether or not you have the work ethic. I know you do. You could not make it to the highest level in the military without having that kind of work ethic. That's one thing that they require. So I know that part is ingrained in you. There's no doubt. I don't have to question that piece at all. The opportunity, that's what I want to see for you. And that's why I'm proud of you, because you're stepping out there on faith. You're stepping out there in something that you believe in, something that you're passionate about. And I know you won't quit. And, you know, that is a wonderful thing to see, is to see someone driven to the point that they won't quit. There's no quit in you. There's only fight. And you know how to take that heel. And you know how not to leave a man behind. That, my friend, is the recipe for being successful. And that's what you have. And I'm just glad to be a part of it.